Greetings, mortals, and welcome. Please present your tickets for validation. Thank you. Your existence has been acknowledged, and you have been granted access every Thursday and Friday. You will be accompanying your guides, Krista and Brandy, along with a world-renowned guest. They will be exploring an intriguing tendril of what humans refer to as reality each week, as they strive to advance you further down the path to the truths of your physical earth and what lies on the other side. Remember to please keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all times, and do not exit until the craft has come to a complete stop.
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, welcome, everybody. Hey, Josh.
Hey. No, it's in my fridge. In the bedroom.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, everybody. You know,
Yep.
It's been a long, exhausting week, and we still have a long way to go. We have been talking about this eclipse coming up on the 8th. So far, my area still has the totality visibility is still high. Mm-hmm. And the people are flocking in. That was evident today. It was terrible. And I'm sure it's even going to be worse tomorrow and Saturday. So yeah. I'm exhausted, but we're still working on it.
Yeah, I hear you. And then today was opening day for the St. Louis Cardinals today. So at work, we had a Cardinals party. So I'm wearing my Cardinals shirt today. So how was your day, Josh?
I'm wearing red. I'm wearing red. And I'm wearing my PRT jacket.
There you go. How are you, Josh?
My total comfy jacket.
Oh, I don't know.
He's not.
Hold on one second. No, honey, it's your fridge. She was asking me about something. I'm trying to answer. So I don't want to get in trouble. I better answer the question. So.
Oh yeah, most definitely, for sure.
Yeah, because Anthony was asking, so he went and recruited her to get on to me. So.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't answer them, that they run to Nelly, and then Nelly will answer, and then I'll answer her. So.
Yep. Then you better pay attention, right?
Brother Heck, what's going on, Brother Heck?
Hey, thank you, Brother Heck. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Pray for Hector. He's got cancer, and he's fighting. He's a fighter. He's doing what he's got to do.
Yep. And he also, I shared it in our in Blondes and Booze. He also has a GoFundMe page for any help. I know he would appreciate it, and I did share it in Blondes and Booze. So.
Okay, that's fine. I'll drink that.
Appreciate that. So we do have Shane Michael Crisp tonight is coming on. However, he is running a little late. He messaged. So it's a work thing, unfortunately.
Oh, then I can take over the show. Here we go. All right. So just kidding. I don't want to do that because I'll be
You'll be in trouble again.
I'll be in trouble again. I'm always in trouble for whatever. I mean, whatever.
Isn't that funny how people like to insert themselves in other people's business,
Yep.
That seems to be a theme.
It does.
Just saying.
Get upset whenever somebody says you don't belong there, and then it's like, well, I have a reason. No, you don't. You really don't have a reason to be in anyone else's business.
Right.
Just in case. I think somebody made a comment, though, about the eclipse kind of bringing out the worst in people, too. Like, for some reason, it seems to be like a lot of people are losing their collective minds. And I don't know if it's the eclipse or if it's the economy or what other, what it is that's causing it. But it is happening. I mean, there's a lot of really crazy stuff happening, man. And everybody's just kind of losing and I think that it may be a combination of both. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
People are just they're broke and they're angry and they're upset. And then
I don't know about you, Josh or Krista, but I have noticed on my friends list that I've noticed a lot of people passing away in the last 3 weeks. And it's been it's been worse than I've ever seen it, because normally there is an uptick during holidays that I've noticed that there are a lot of people who pass, but I'm telling you what, the last 3 weeks, that's all I've been seeing, unexpected deaths and this, that, and the other. And it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, it's a true story. Actually, one of my bosses just passed away last week. One of my old bosses. So it's just sad. And he had young kids and stuff, you just never know.
Yeah, I see. That's what I'm saying. I'm just noticing all this, and I'm like, this is just really wild to me.
You guys think it has something to do with what are your thoughts on that? What do you think's happening?
I don't know. I just don't know, people. Honestly, a lot of younger people I've noticed are passing away. And, maybe it does have to do with all the food, the processed foods, and, people don't take care of themselves like they should,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Jackie and Hawk saying hi to everybody here. Moon at Noon. 39 Seanman, Paranormal Paul. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandy.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I've noticed that that people aren't eating at home like they should, because we know what we need to make at home. We know what's good for us. But when you go out to eat, it's just kind of like, I'll just have it this time. And then, it'll go out again and, I'll just have it this time. And then next thing you know, it just becomes a normal everyday thing. And, and it's something we've got to fix, plus they're talking about all this stuff with cell phones and how they're not good for you. It's kind of like putting your ear up to a microwave, and who knows? I mean, who knows?
Everything.
It's all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, eating at home is good, but you could eat healthy too. There are healthy places, but people tend to go and eat like the quick and easy fast food type stuff.
Yes, they do.
No, it's on. Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, we haven't eaten dinner, and we're there's a place that's really good, and it's a Korean place, and they do like this bowl, and they call it a rainbow bowl, and it has like every color of the rainbow of different vegetables, and then they have this purple rice with salmon. So very healthy. So I tried. Today is the day we eat that. But yesterday, unfortunately, I didn't eat healthy. I didn't eat a lot of it though. That's the good thing. I didn't, we had pizza, and I cannot eat pizza because it's so salty. I'm salt sensitive, so I had 2 pieces. So that was it. I limited myself. But then I ate like way too much of these like protein bars and stuff.
Yeah.
No, like 3 of them to try to make up for it all throughout the night. I was like eating that, and I was like, it's probably not much better to eat bunches of that because you're still, eating too much. But tonight
they come with their own problems. I swear they do.
They do, yeah. Maltodextrin. Make sure you don't have that in there. It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But,
I just think people don't take care of themselves like they really need to. And you know what I'm saying? And even I'm guilty in that too. Myself, I actually just recently quit smoking, and I've got about 6 weeks in. So it's finally, I'm in my 50s, and I'm figuring out, man, I need to, get in better health and quit smoking and start eating better.
If you don't do it, Krista, I mean, you got children, you got, and Brandy, you need to take care of yourself. It's I got my own issues because people tell me a lot of people depend on you. And if something happens to you, there's going to be a void there. Yeah. I know that because I watched a lot of very important people in my life pass away, and there's still a void there. So, my best friends died years ago, and his children, became, they were my godchildren. And when they got older, I still to this day, I kind of look after them and keep up with them. I talk to their mother.
Yeah.
But she still to this day, she's very bitter because he took his own life, and it was like he had a mental health issue that was unresolved, but he refused to let anybody help him.
Yeah.
And, I was one of the few people he would listen to, but he was up in Colorado, and I couldn't get up there. I was dealing with, I had Zane, my nephew who I adopted, and he was causing problems at school and acting out, because him and his mother had a lot of issues. And so I ended up taking him and raising him. and him and my brother had a lot of issues. And so I couldn't just leave. I had work, and we were growing really fast at that time. And I still kicked myself because I think I could have helped him. But then again, who knows? Maybe I would have helped him for a little while. And if you're going to do that, who knows? I mean, I really wish that people would take it seriously when people talk about doing something like that. Because I learned my lesson, about it, and I just thought, he's strong. He promised me he wasn't going to try and do it again. This was his second attempt, and he did it. And I think about it a lot, and I think that mental health is a big issue. Big problem with people. And you don't always know what people are going through, and people appear to be strong, and they're really not. And they act out, and so. I guess I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess it's just one of those things, it's like I wish that he had not done that, because he left a huge void.
Sure.
And my mother didn't take care of herself. She had lost a bunch of weight, but then she let herself go again. And she was like, I want to be there for my grandkids and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then when she was in the hospital and she started going downhill, she admitted to us, she was like, I screwed up. She's like, and she said she didn't think she was going to make it out. And she didn't.
Wow.
And it was sad because she did want to be there. And, the youngest grandchild, she wanted to be there for him to at least get to where, Anthony and them's age is, and she didn't make it. And it was, it has left a void.
Yeah.
And if something happens to y'all, it's going to leave a void, just like something happened to me, it would leave a void. Now, with me, it's a little different because some people would love it, and other people would probably throw a parade. They'd have marching bands, and they'd be like, finally, we can go live.
No.
You just get out of the way that we can hurt people fair and square, whatever.
Not at all. Hawk says mental health is a big issue throughout the world. Absolutely, it is.
It is, Hawk.
Yeah, that's part of taking care of yourself, though. That is part of taking care of yourself. You've got to find it through exercise or meditation or whatever your method is. It's like you got to keep your head space clear and clean and straight. And unfortunately, I think that today with the TV and video games and telephones and I got to say cell phones. I'm showing my age. Cell phones. That is just kind of clouding your energy in your head.
Sure. Absolutely.
Let me do this, ladies. You guys, who do you guys got on tap for tomorrow night? What do you guys got going on tomorrow night?
We don't have anybody tomorrow night. Maybe Leticia might hop on with us. She said, "That's it."
That's it.
Yeah, because tomorrow night, me and my people are going to be discussing something interesting, and it's going to be about skinwalkers, and we're going to talk a little bit about the connection, because we just released the new song just came out. We're going to release it tomorrow night, and it is called Bad Medicine, and it's about a skinwalker and how appropriate. We have another song that came out called Envy. So that one will be you can do the math, but
right.
And I didn't come up with those. I mean, I can take credit for it, but I was going to say, if you guys don't have a guest or whatever, I could jump on early with you guys, maybe.
Sure.
If you want to, and we could do like a little preamble to what's going to happen on the other show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
I got a little bit of stuff that we could throw out there, and we could take questions from the audience, because a lot of people are interested in the subject matter that we did a show on Tuesday about reptilians, and it was called
I saw that
Reptilian Immortals, I think Anthony named it.
Yes.
And it was about the Xi'an. And it was also about the people from the Lichian people, who are blonde haired and green eyed, and where they came from. And there's a lot of weird. And so when you take the history, and it's good to know the history, and you can put it to the encounters, that people give you, and you can say, hey, this is where it's at. It's grounded in this. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've been able to move internationally and go, laterally to other east, west, whatever. Because I think that there's a lot of answers that we're just not going to find them here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I think that Europe and Asia and Africa are where a lot of these answers are, and we're not going to find them here, man. And the big problem too is that a lot of people disrespect the Native community, because it's like a lot of the Bigfoot people that it's like they okay with the natives as long as they espouse what they want.
Yeah.
But there's a certain type of, person that if they don't espouse that, then they're like, oh, well, they believe everything is a spirit. Even a tree is a spirit, blah, blah, blah. Well, it is.
Yeah.
And they kind of disavow whatever they say because it doesn't fit their narrative. And so that's a big problem for me. And so I've gotten a lot, and I am very proud of this. I've got a lot of Native Americans lately just telling me they really love what we're doing. Of course, we've had Craig Brand, who's Ojibwe, Yehola Tiger, who's Cherokee, and Cherokee. And then we had what's his name, Jerry Williams, who's Choctaw. And I have a lot of listeners who are natives. One of our biggest donors, Rita Burnett, she's a native, and Shonda Hardinger, a lot of different people who are from the native community, and they like that I'm telling the story from their perspective, but it's really not their perspective, it's our perspective because it's the truth.
Very cool.
And people don't really hear that, and like, I had somebody reach out to me yesterday and I thought this was another big feather in our cap too. He says, my whole family listens to you, and he's Creole. He's a Creole, and he lives down in Louisiana. He said, my whole family, we sit around and listen to you like the old days. And I said, that's really cool. I've heard a lot of people say that. He goes, but you're spot on about these beings, because he talked to me a little bit about the Rougarou.
Yeah.
One of the things, his name's Charlie. But anyway, Charlie gave me some information about the Rougarou, and he says, I have a story from when I was a child, and it's all about the Rougarou, and it involves a black raven. And so he messaged it out to me, and and so I messaged him back, and I said, send it to me, and so we got the email. And so if you would like, maybe just remind me tomorrow when I come on, I could tell you his story and his encounter with what he believed was the Rougarou. And
absolutely. Don't forget, tomorrow is our 7:00 night.
I will be fashionably late. I'm joking. I'll be there.
We're just like, he'll be here. Just, he never misses.
Pulling to me because I'm always late on my own show. I'm not usually late on other people's shows too much, but I'm always late for my own show. My mother was always like getting on to me. She's like, you're like your dad, just born late.
Yeah.
You'll be late.
And see, I'm that person that hates to be late to anything.
I do too.
But it always shows up early.
Hey, Letitia. How you doing, Letitia?
Yeah.
Letitia has to. She's a good person, man, to put up with all that. This community can really just run you down.
Absolutely, it can. It can. I did hear from Shane, and he's about 15 minutes out. So just
a whole show will be done by the time he gets here. Come on, Shane.
They work.
Well, he is in like two time zones away, so we'll have to forgive him.
West Coast,
yeah, we'll have to forgive him a little bit.
Well, if you guys, I have a Bigfoot story. If you guys want to hear it,
love to.
Okay.
Yes.
We got some people in the chat here. So I was talking. I don't know if you guys remember. I was talking to a guy named Nathaniel who ended up introducing me to the people who ended up being from that temple, the temple that they were involved with the vampirism and the lycanthropy, whatever you want to call it. So Daniel is and this is why I encourage all podcasters and YouTubers, and you guys aren't greenhorns, but people that are starting out, you're just trying to get started doing a podcast or YouTube, I'll give you the advice. And what I'll tell you is when you talk to somebody about a story, never, ever hesitate to ask them if there's more. Now, don't push them to make something up because that could happen. They could feel compelled to turn a little something into something big because that's what you want. And I know people who do that. I really do. But what I mean is they probably know people who've had encounters, or maybe they've had other encounters. And the case was with Nathaniel. And I told him, I said, Nathan, I appreciate you, whatever. And he says, I know a girl who said that her family had some issues with Bigfoot, and it was right there in Louisiana, Mississippi border where they lived. And he said, you could get in touch with her. Her name was Amber. And so I said, I'll talk to her as long as it's not Amber Heard. And she's actually from not far from here. She's like the next town over. She's actually not far from,
we don't want anybody poo-pooing on the bed. Thanks.
We don't want nobody pooping the bed here. But So anyways, I reached out to Amber. She was very nice, and so we had a little conversation. She says, no, it's not me that had the stories, my dad. She's like, but I know Nathan because I used to date his cousin, and his cousin's a very, very cool guy. Whatever, I don't know his cousin at all, but she said that it was just time and distance. He went away to the military and she went away to college, and they just kind of drifted apart. And they kind of they're talking again now. So if love finds a way, so that's a good thing. But so what happened was, she says, my dad, when he grew up on this farm, when he was a kid, they lived out in the middle of nowhere. And she's like, I'm talking like rarely went to town, and didn't wear shoes in the summer kind of people. I was like that when I was young until I was like, in my early teens. And then I ended up moving, culture shock, But I thank God. I didn't like it at the time, but I thank God because I was able to experience different levels. Like I was out in the boonies 15 years, and then I was in the barrio, and living in the inner city later on. And then it just, it prepares you for anything, So he was living out in the middle of nowhere, and it was kind of a situation, kind of like where Barton had, and I was just talking to Barton about it the other day with the Spotsville monster thing and all that, and it's such a weird dynamic when you have a family who's being harassed. Now, Barton, though, had some neighbors who were able to say, hey, this is actually happening. The problem with this girl and her family was that nobody was believing them. And the closest neighbors were like, oh, you're crazy. There's nothing going on. And this being, if you want to call it a Sasquatch, I don't know what you would call it, but it sounded more like a gugwe. Oh, but wow. It was the way that they described it, as we would just think of a gugwe with the muzzle and all that. And it smelled horrible, smelled like rotten garbage and blood and urine, she said. And she said her dad said that there were 4 children, and that his dad, was a World War II veteran, and he was a no-nonsense guy, and he didn't want to put up with any kind of whatever. But when they were out and they were coon hunting, and he said that was something they did quite a bit. They had these 2 red bone hounds, and they were out, and one of them treed something that they thought was a small black bear. But when they looked up into the tree, they realized that this thing was more ape-like, and it looked almost like a skinny gorilla. Oh, but wow. It was like built more like a man. And when it looked down at them, they saw that it was, like it had you could see the face, and it was almost like a white person in the face, but it had dark fur on it, or hair. She called it fur, but I think it was probably hair. Right. And then it had you could see really light gray skin tone underneath, which was weird, And she said that her dad saw it, and they were freaked out because they heard a roar coming out of the woods, and they thought that something bigger and larger was coming. So they all just bounced. And one of their dogs took off toward the woods, toward the sound that they heard. And all they heard was like a cracking, popping noise and a yelp, and that was it. And they never saw that dog again. So I can imagine what had happened, but that was the beginning of whatever this was terrorizing them, and they never saw the smaller one again. So my thoughts on it were, if you look at it from a flesh and blood perspective, it was their dogs had harassed and treated a juvenile squatch. Right. The alpha or whatever, or maybe the dad of the family, in my opinion, was upset. Yeah. Oh, so it followed them back to their house. They didn't live in a real big fancy place. And then they ended up going through horror with this thing because it showed up on their doorstep one day, and it literally dropped part of a dead deer. And so it could have been misconstrued as like, well, it was giving you an offering, right? It was offering something to you. But the part that it dropped was not really edible because it was just the head and the neck. And, yeah. And it didn't just drop it. It like threw it up against the door, and they hear this thud. Oh. And so they open the door, and there's this it's rotting too, by the way. And so they hear this disgusting, splat on the side of the house, and they go, and there's another part of the deer that's just been destroyed by whatever it was that threw this thing. Wow. And so they said on the north side of their house, there was this huge crack on the side of the wall. And so they were terrified, and they didn't see what had left it. But then 2 nights later, they see these like orange eyes, like peering over this fence line. And the dad took like a shot at it. Well, this thing didn't back down. It just jumped over the fence and was like right there. Like the way he described it was like a furry, Incredible Hulk. And it just like began to like walk really fast, like towards him. And then it stopped as he shot it, point blank, front and center. He shot it. And it was with a 30-06. I mean, bam, 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 2-3 shots. He said you shot 3 times. Don't know if you hit it all 3 times, but at least twice because he saw it, like this weird mist or something come off of it. But it wasn't blood. Wow. It was like black from the way that her dad remembered it. Now, her dad was a teenager when this was going on. He was like 13, and his older brother, Norman, was 15. And so Norman was very upset. He was like, we got to get inside. And he had to grab his dad. And so when they went inside, this thing came up to the house and began to break out the windows, punching out all the windows, going around the house. They called the county sheriff. Now in Louisiana, they have parishes,
Right.
So the parish, they lived right on the border. And so they ended up coming and showing up and talking to these people. And they saw the damage that it had done. They had chickens that had not at that point been molested or messed with. They hadn't messed with them. But nothing was done. They were just like, well, kind of sucks to be you kind of attitude. And then goodbye, and then they leave. And so they're like, and Amy Creel, I have to look it up because I wasn't planning on telling the story tonight.
Right.
We're waiting on Shane. So thanks, Shane, for me not being prepared. Okay. I'm just kidding. I love Shane. Shane's a great kid. I'm just messing around.
He is great.
I don't know the name at the top of my head, but I can probably get it for you by tomorrow night. But anyways, so what ended up happening, this being or whatever it was just continued to harass them. But it was always the same being. There was only one. It was a male. They knew it was a male, and it was black, like the baby. But with a little bit of a chocolate tint to it too, like the ends of the fur looked a little weird. And get this, her dad saw it one time in broad daylight when his mother was outside. These people weren't very wealthy, right? So they hung their clothes up outside. She washed them and wrung them out with an old timey washing machine, the kind you crank, stuff we would never do now because it's like everybody's got a washing machine or you go to a washateria, right?
Right.
But she had one of those old cranks. My great aunt had one of those. And we didn't know what the hell it was. We'd play with it. And that's
right.
Like, y'all don't get hurt with that thing, because you can. So anyway, it was my Aunt Carmel. She had all kinds of old timey things, and we would mess with them. We'd be like, "What is this?" And I was like, I found this like a scythe, a big, whatever. I was playing with it, and I almost cut myself in half. But so this being continued to harass the hell out of their house, and at night, they would take to sitting around the fire and reading the Bible because they were terrified. They were freaked out that this thing was going to come and do something. And they would hear a bang on the door. And the dad would just stand up reading the Bible. And he would go around the house and he would say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And then he would say the Lord's Prayer, and, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, and he would just repeat this stuff. And I believe she said they were like, they weren't Catholic. I forgot what she said. They were like Episcopalian or something originally, but he wasn't really a religious man, but he was trying to do whatever he had to do, And so they were outside one day and they see this thing at the tree line that looks like a blur, like it just like runs by them really fast. And then he said that he caught a glimpse of it from behind and the backside was visible, completely visible. And the way the sunlight hit it, he could see like this weird prism looking whatever off of the ends of the fur of this creature. But the interesting thing was when it ran by, the front like was cloaked, like when it first ran by. So there was like this cloaking in the front of it that made it look like it was some sort of like, like the predator, looking thing,
Yeah.
But then when it ran from behind, the sun caught it at an angle, and him and his mother both looked, and sure enough, there was like the backside of this creature, and it ran into the woods. And at that point, he says, I don't know if it wanted to scare us away, or if it was really aggravated, or if it really just wanted to kill us, because it could have killed us. And he goes, and so a few years go by, the encounters with this thing got less and less and less. to the point where by the time he was 18, they were still living there. They were kind of known in that area as the Bigfoot family. They had a Bigfoot happen, whatever. He said, but then our neighbors just to the south of us had some incident one night, and they only lived like a mile away. And he goes, we could hear gunfire, like crazy gunfire. So we got in the truck and we drove over there. Now, of course, this is, like you were saying, Brandy, about cell phones, I mean, this guy is like, he's now like, a little older than me. So he's like 49. But he was like, we heard gunfire, so we go over there to see what's going on. And there were no cell phones or whatever. And he goes, and our phone he goes, we were very poor. Our phone had been cut off, temporarily, because it would get cut off and get back on. And so then, hey, Shane, you're going to have to wait. I'm telling a story, man.
Hey, what's up, Josh?
You were late.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry to be late to the rodeo.
No, it's all good, brother. So I'm almost done. So what ended up happening is they go to the neighbors, and they had seen this creature that had grabbed one of their goats. They had a couple of goats, there was a pair, and it grabbed one of them and had taken off with it, and literally right in front of them, it just like broke its neck and was like out into the woods. But they opened fire on it. There was like 6 or 7 people out in the front.
Wow.
And they all just started shooting at it, and it never made another appearance. But the neighbor had told them that they're like, hey, man, sorry, we didn't believe you. We thought you were just, but they were apologizing because they showed up to help them, whatever was going on. And they were just like, yeah, we saw this creature, and they were all freaked out. And then he said a couple years later, he went away to school on a scholarship and went to play, I think, at Louisiana Tech or something. But anyway, bottom line, long story short, ending right here, just that was it, And he said, over the years, every now and then, there would be somebody that would see one of these creatures.
Wow.
And they didn't always look the same, but they had to tell them, hey, I'm sorry, but we didn't believe you at the time, until they saw it.
Yeah. I was wondering if they were going to apologize or blame them for that thing going over there. I mean, it could have went either way. I was wondering,
It was years later, like he said, he was 14 and then he had just turned 18. So he said it was probably about 3.5 years, that this thing had not made an appearance that he knew of. But he goes, every now and then somebody will see one, but he think that maybe it lost interest. In my opinion, I told him, I said it probably just went to another area, and then it just would come back every now and then to steal, because the interesting thing too, though, was that not only just the cloaking aspect of it, but they had chickens, and it never bothered to do anything to the chickens.
That's odd.
Yeah, they have odd behavior, right? They do weird things that you don't think.
Right.
It just defies logic. But anyway, we're here to talk to Shane. Shane, what's going on, brother?
Not a whole lot. I'm sorry I'm late, you guys. Work schedule is crazy, so
you're good.
I've been texting Krista and telling her, like, hey, I'm so sorry I'm running late. So
you're all good.
How are you guys all doing today?
Good. Well, she's been giving us updates, so we knew you were coming soon.
Okay. I know. I was sitting there. I was literally hauling as fast as I could on the freeway. I'm like trying to get home.
No, don't do that.
No, don't do that.
We will be responsible. Shane Michael Chris. They killed Shane because they forced him to drive too fast to get to the. I blame Josh Turner. He did it.
Blame Wolf. Huh?
Forever it'll be. Well, Josh Turner killed Shane Michael Chris. Oh yeah. and then the story will grow. They'll be like, he held him hostage for a week. He tortured him in brine, and then he cut his head off because he's so evil. He's like Al Qaeda.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Well, you get blamed for everything else, Josh. Just saying.
I was going to say you put a voodoo hex on him to make him crash or something, just something.
I'm the bad guy.
I got carried off by
Shane, what's been going on in the world of the West Coast Dogman? I see a lot of your stuff you've been posting. A lot of you have interesting stuff, man. And you always catch me at a time where I'm like, I got to read this now.
I really appreciate that. Like, just checking in. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on because I am on a short hiatus because my daughter was born a few months ago. So we stopped the podcasting for a little bit, but we're going to try to fire it up next month and then get back, guests that have had encounters, authors like Aaron Deese. That I think we're going to try to get him on real soon too. So, but yeah, other than that, one of the theories I've been really with a lot of time. When I do have my free time, I guess you could say, I do speculate on different things on like the tufts on the Dogman's hair on the ears. What is it? Just hair, or could those things be like sense vibrations, or could it be picking up on something? But the one I posted today was something that I was talking to another gentleman about, and kind of floating the idea about Dogmen having the digitigrade leg structures and the ones that have the hominid leg structures. And it's like, which one? People report seeing Dogmen with the hominid leg structures, but then when you go to look online, I mean, are they werewolves? I mean, if you believe in the shape-shifting aspect of lycanthropy, those seem to be the ones that have the hominid leg structure. So it's just one of those theories. I try telling people, hey, there's no wrong idea. It's just we have no physical evidence or proof of these things. So, I mean, we can theorize on what do you think, you know? So I like to just bring up debate, not things for debate, but just what people can discuss, you know? Yeah, food for thought.
I saw that today when you did that. And I don't know, ladies, if you saw that, but he had made a post and it was like the digitigrade, you know, versus the.
I didn't see that one today.
Yeah,
I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, you can look it up on there and just you can see a picture of it. And I thought that was very interesting because there has always been a debate about, well, and people have talked about the dog-headed people, you know, the cynocephali. And of course, I've heard people, they say it like it's a fact, but it's really pure speculation that they actually, the cynocephali have these straight legs. But I don't believe that that's completely accurate. And I don't know, because according to what I've been told by multiple sources of, you know, over the years, and then of course most recently somebody who claims that they were a werewolf, that werewolves can be both, and they can be in different shape, like they can have different shapes, like they're not fully changed, and so sometimes they will keep the straight legs, and sometimes they will end up changing completely into the lower legs. But then I've also heard, and I got a story out of, I think it was Weslaco, Texas, down in Rio Grande Valley, that there were two people that got in touch with us, two friends leaving a party, and they saw something that looked like the upper body of a man with just like a kind of a lot of hair on his face, and then the legs were dog-like. So what is that? Is that a skinwalker? And people always say, well, the werewolf looks like this, and the dogman looks like that, and the skinwalker looks like this, and we really don't know. I mean, we just really don't know.
Just the anatomy of the upright canids is something that always makes me speculate and just think about. Like, if you believe in werewolves are supposedly a little bit shorter than your typical 7-foot dogman, and the ears are on the side of the head instead of on top. I mean, that's something that people have speculated and, you know, say, well, this is what I saw. But then again, some encounters happen in a blink of an eye, and it's just a blur. So people try to remember as much as they could. So, I mean, if it's on the side, it's going to look like it's on the side of the ear, you know, or the side of the head.
Right.
So, I mean, what was that? Sorry. I think I cut out. Did I cut out?
No, you're good.
Nope.
No, you're good.
Sorry, there was a delay on my side, but yeah.
That's right. I was wondering this too. I mean, because in my generation, it was always werewolf. There was no dogman. That word was what was not used. It's always been werewolf. But it's interesting now that you're finding differences between the two.
Exactly.
And that's what I find very fascinating and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, the term werewolf has been around for ages, for centuries, but dogman really didn't come about, or wolfman, until Linda Godfrey really coined it, late 80s, early 90s, or the Beast of Bray Road even. Yeah,
because all we knew was werewolf, and then it'd be a wolf man.
Right.
Those are the two terms that I knew as growing up, but I didn't. So this is all new to me, and I'm just jumping in the dogman arena, because paranormal's been most of my life. So it is very fascinating for sure.
Yeah, I had never even heard of Dogman until 5 years ago. It's like, what is this? And the first time I heard about it, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, And I'm not gonna lie, I laughed about it. Like, really? Okay.
I'm like,
the name
sounds like a werewolf to me,
Right.
I mean,
my brother,
is this a nickname? What are we dealing with here?
Right.
Yeah. My brother looked it up and was like, hey, check this out. So I give him the credit because we were trying to figure out what the hell I saw. And he was living in Michigan, and he had heard of the Michigan Dogman. So he just typed that in, because me and my brother started this together. We were kind of working together, doing all this. And the kind of stuff that's going on now is the reason why he don't want to do it. He's just, I'm not doing it. I don't blame him. But, this whole creature, like what it is or whatever. And then through that Dogman search, I found a show, and then I also found, Linda Godfrey, like her books or whatever. But I think that was probably back in 2010 or something.
Oh, wow.
And then, later on, in I guess 2015, I guess is when I found the show. But it was all through him, because I didn't know what a Dogman was, because we were looking up werewolf, and we were going to the library and trying to look up books, and it was all just like legends and a few stories, but not, it wasn't like anything that you could sink your teeth into like you have now.
Exactly.
Thank God we have it now. We can just, go and we can talk to these people. But Shane, you have access to the archives, don't you, of the North American Dogman Project?
Yes, we sure do. So that's something that's another thing that's started back up. I wouldn't say it ever dissolved, but last time I think I was actually on Krista and Brandy's show. Jody, it was during what had happened. I guess you could say the IDP fallout. Jody was wanting to close shop. So originally what I took my region 1 page, and I made it the United States Dogman Federation, but I had a lot of backlash from people saying, hey, this is an NADP page. So what are you doing? So I was like, yeah, you're right. Let's just change it back and we'll start another one up. So, but getting that up, Jody wanted to jump back in. And so we recreated all the 5 region pages, and we've expanded out to Canada, Mexico, and a European Dogman Project page Facebook groups. More than I could actually handle and manage, but I try my best doing it what I can, helping Jody run NADP just on the Facebook aspect. But we do have the archive aspect of that. And what I do try to do is go into the archives and find a random an encounter and try to share it to a certain page just so people could see it. So not to try to keep the folklore or the phenomenon growing, but just so see people are out there that if you want to come forward and share your stuff, that there is platforms like Blondes and Booze, Paranormal Roundtable, West Coast Dogman Project. They don't have to bottle it up, and they can say, hey, look, these people came forward with their encounter. What the heck did I just see? I swear I saw an upright wolf on 2 legs run across the road or something. But people just, 10, 20 years ago say, oh, you're crazy. But hey, it's 2024. We're in a world of crazy right now. So how crazier can you get?
We are.
But we do have awesome podcasts like you two, Krista, Brandy, and Josh. You guys have platforms. And I would say for someone like myself, if I ever had an encounter and I didn't know where to go to, and I found your guys' stuff, I'd be like, hey, awesome. And if it wasn't you specifically, you could put me in contact with someone that and that's what we're trying to do at the NADP and even West Coast. That's what I just say. I don't piggyback. I just kind of do my own thing at West Coast. If you want to share some pictures with a little red circle, hey, photos are subjective.
Well, you have 4 groups though for West Coast.
I think we're up to 6. I think I have 6.
I guess I'm not in a couple of them then.
I'm not in a couple of them. I think I've got Alien, Sasquatch, and there's another one. Skinwalker was the other one. Yeah.
And you, so I think 6, because we have Gugway and Chupacabra as well.
Yeah, so I don't have any of those. We don't have those.
I'll be honest with you, Krista, Brandy. I don't post as much in that stuff. I don't trying to find the time of day. There's 24 hours out of the day, but work and then trying to find stuff online to listen to or share or read. It's like those are my hobbies, but it's like the interest is more into the Dogman and Sasquatch and the UFO. But Chupacabra, is it just a little lizard out in Puerto Rico with spikes on its back, or is it a coyote down in New Mexico, Texas with mange? That's really what you're getting on the 2 portions, the 2 different things. But there's not a whole lot of information that people are sharing too. So when you go to share something like on the Chupacabra, it's probably an article from 5-6 years ago. I mean, it seems like the Dogman and Sasquatch phenomenon is just always growing, and so it's always so easy to find something to share. So
I'll tell you something about the Chupacabra thing. The Chupacabra thing, depending on what region of Mexico you're in, is either like a funny, jokey thing, or they take it deadly serious. I mean, there's like no in between for some reason. It's like they'll call everything evil and bad a Chupacabra in some places. Like Tamaulipas, I think it's more, they believe like it's more like that's a legit thing, But then you get down, into the Yucatan, and it's kind of like, it's a joke. But then if you get into these rural places where they've had issues, then it starts to get a little different. And then I still believe, I have a theory about this, and Nick Redfern, I worked with him about 4 years ago on some cases, and I gave him a stockpile of cases. There were 6 of them.
Mhm.
And I said, take these and do what you will, whatever, take a look at them. And one lady had told us that it looked like Cocopelli, and it was from Mexico. And Cocopelli it was interesting because it was this little like flute-like playing. It looks like it's playing a flute, but really and truly, I think it's like a mosquito-type sucker thing that's attached to this creature, and they had like reliefs of it on like temples and stuff and down in Mexico. And so you know how Nick talks. Nick's like, Josh, I think that there's a connection there. Where are they coming from? Puerto Rico, and then they're coming
just like it.
into in the Yucatan. And I've been doing a lot of research on that, and I think there's a connection. It sounds kind of like one of the Beatles, but that's
It
Nick,
sounds
right?
like him though.
Yeah, it does.
Nick, I said, what about Cocopelli? He goes, oh, that's quite interesting because I've done some research on that, and I want to delve into that. If you have any witnesses, So a couple months go by, and anybody who came with that, with me, I said, hey. So him and Ken both kind of ended up with some of the same witnesses, and we talked to a lot of different people, and we were on a thread together. We had our own like little thread or whatever, and it was like me, him, Ken, Lyle, Barton, and David Weatherly, and we named it the Cryptid Highwaymen. So it was pretty funny that we would throw a bunch of stories out there, whatever, and I felt kind of like the oddball because they were all authors and I wasn't, and so Ken very snarkily goes, "We'll fix that. Go write a book." So I was like, "Okay, I will." So I did. But what's funny though is like I was pulling all these different stories and these witnesses, and I was putting them out there and saying, "Here, talk to these people, and see what you can glean from that." Because I wasn't doing a show at that time about Chupacabra, but I was preparing for one. And I said, eventually, a couple months down the road, I'm going to do one, but you guys can do what you want, And so I think David might have talked to one of them, and then it was just whatever. But Nick delved into it really deep, and he even went to Puerto Rico and believes that he came really close to one in the jungle. And what I believe, and this is my opinion, and I'm going to shut up about this, but I think the narcos did it. I think that what they did was they purchased them because they had jumping off points in the Caribbean where they would take their cocaine, as they say, and they would shove it up into Florida. That sounds weird to say it that way, but they would shove it in. They would traffic it into Florida with the Cubanos. And so the Cubans, they had these little things, and this is little duende monitos, whatever, and they would tell them, like these little dudes, they would call them. And so these mexicanos, the narcos mexicanos, they were looking at them like, what is that? And they were interested. So they would keep them in little cages. And they would get them from the Puerto Ricans that had them in abundance in their jungles, and they would use them as pets because when they're small, they look kind of cute. They look like, have you ever seen that thing, Resident Alien? They kind of look like the little Bridget, the little dude or whatever. Yeah, they kind of look cute, They have the big eyes, And I had this guy telling me, this guy Manuel, he told us, he says, when they're little, they it's real cute, it's pobrecito, and then he goes, and then you realize that these little bastards, they drink blood. He's like, and then their little cabron gets bigger, and then it wants meat. This thing is ravenous and it grows fast. Mm-hmm. Think of like a magpie from the Gremlins that gets big really quick and becomes striped really fast and becomes really aggressive. And you can't tell their gender. Nobody knows how to tell their gender because I believe, and this is what I believe, they are something that came from the inner earth. And they came out of the cave system in Puerto Rico. And I think that they were genetically altered, some of them, with like maybe simian DNA. Just my opinion. And they began to become monkey-like because the Puerto Ricans reported to Nick and some of our colleagues, that they really didn't climb trees. But then the ones that came out of this facility that was defunct, that was a military facility, that was a joint operation between the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the United States. And they were doing genetic, what they call it's genetic canceling, but it's like that's a fancy name for just basically splicing stuff together you shouldn't be doing, basically. And they had monkeys there But these creatures that came out of there, they were climbing trees and jumping from tree to tree. And they had the traits, I believe, they supercharged these beings. And of course, man always just loves to tamper and make things so much better. And yeah. So then they take them as their babies, and then they trade them. And the narcos had a bunch of money, and they're like, okay, I'll give you 10,000, 20,000. A person that's on the beach, in Cuba, living under communism, hell yeah, they're going to take the risk, and they're going to sell it to one of these narcos and make a bunch of money, and so that's what they were doing. So there was a thriving trade there. And then the narcos, going all the way back to the 60s, they were taking them back to the mainland of Mexico. And I think that's how they arrived there. And then they would get out of hand, and they just like, get rid of this thing, get rid of it, dump it, whatever. So they started proliferating in the jungles in the Yucatan. And, eventually they got up further north and became a problem. Ranchers were finding their cattle and their goats sucked to death and, dead. And sometimes they would find these little gremlin looking creatures just hanging on to them. One of their cows. I know I heard a report in Guerrero of one rancher who claims to have lost 3 dozen cows in like a matter of less than 3 days. So
wow,
I mean,
that's
like,
a lot.
Yeah.
That's
So I don't know
money.
if it was a pack of them or what, but they were like 2 or 3 of these. They just were killing them like crazy. And the legends and the stories are that they can actually kill something, like they can wipe you out real quick, quicker than a Dogman or a Bigfoot. Typically, a Dogman and Bigfoot will kill something if they make you mad. They'll destroy your herd. I've heard of that, but they don't really necessarily need it like Al, exactly, like the blood. You know what I mean? Like they're little vampiric bastards, man. I'm telling you, they're not cute little funny things, But anyway, go ahead, Shane.
Oh no, go ahead. I was like just listening, but yeah, no, I think that's actually sounds very true. Taking that out to Mexico, maybe that's where a lot of these illegal immigrants that are crossing over are going missing. Maybe they're being attacked and hunted.
Well, they've said that before.
Idea. Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they've said that people have claimed that they have said that they're Dogmen and that they've seen little chupacabra looking creatures. And look at and this, Shane and Brandy and Crystal, you can tell me what you think of this, but if you look at the blue dog, and now I thought I had seen one for a while. I had seen one on my job site. And then when Nelly, I guess it was the second year she was here, like 2018, we saw 2 of them run across the road, and you could see the spines on their back, like not sticking out, but there's like a ridge, And I said, oh my gosh. So I called Nick and I called Ken, and I was all excited. I was like, I seen a cryptid. I finally seen another cryptid besides the Dogman. And when I told them, they were just like, people see those all the time. I'm like, really? Wow. Like I was all excited. So Ken was like, yeah, I was at a conference in Abilene and I was driving back. I saw one run across the road. I was like, damn, I thought I had really just, hit something, like something was, I had really seen something and really I hadn't. And it was just like, and then I found out, yeah, they're right. People see them all the time. I mean, it's not a rare thing anymore. But if you look at these blue dogs, right, and I had a chance to examine one of these. It was a skeleton that this guy had at a museum across from the Alamo, and it was there for a few months or whatever. And he had one in a tube, and he said that was the skeleton of a chupacabra, and it didn't have the back legs; it just had the upper whatever, and the head looked so weird. So I paid this guy. I said, look, man, I'll give you $100 if you take it out and let me examine it. He claims it didn't have any DNA. And I said, well, can I take some DNA? He wouldn't let me touch it or whatever. And I said, okay. So then me, my brother, a couple of my friends, we put together $200. And he said, nah. I said, come on, man. Just take it out and show them. Then I started messing with him. I said, prove it. Prove it's not a fake. So he took it out and he let us look at it. And of course, I talked him into letting me touch it. And it was flesh, and but the skull was so weird. The fangs were like that big. I mean, it was insane. And they had these really long, pronounced top fangs, and it was the skull of a blue dog. It had to be, and the ridges, the back was deformed looking. You could see the bones. They had these like weird looking, like triangular looking ridges on it. And I said, this is not normal. And of course, at the time, we were kind of like freaked out, and So he wouldn't let us take a picture of it either, which kind of pissed me off. But I wanted to pull out my phone. He's like, no pictures. People pay to come see this, you know. And I said, okay, whatever, dude. But it was a little gimmick, you know. And I didn't get a chance to take any DNA. He was watching me the whole time. And then he put it back in his little, you know, in its little enclosure, whatever. The next time I was there, it was gone because somebody had reported it. So the health department made him get rid of it, is what I was told by one of the people that were there. But it was a very interesting thing. And so I in my theory of the blue dog mixed with the chupacabra, I think that they did something. And I say they, like, you know, Tolstoy says, if people say they don't know who they are. I don't know who they are, but they did something. And they crossed over with this canine. And I think that that's what that is, because the coyote, the mitochondrial DNA is coyote, but we don't know what the dad is.
Yeah. Have you heard, you were talking about this guy had this, and I've seen it on one of the paranormal TV shows, I think Ghost Adventures or something went, and there was the lady claimed, and I think she's in Texas, that had a chupacabra. She put it in the freezer and then had it tested. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Ken did that investigation.
Okay, could that be like the blue dog that you're talking about?
That's the blue dog.
Okay, gotcha.
She was a rancher, and it was down near Cuero, Texas. And I've driven through there many times. And I don't know, there's an area like near where Shane, like you live in the north of California, right?
I'm more central, southern, kind of almost southern. I'm just 2 hours north of LA.
Wow. And you're still a Niners fan. That's amazing. Great. Way to go.
Right.
I
apologize.
We will pray for you. Don't apologize. Right? That's your team, man, you know. Did a lot better than the Cowboys. And you can't say nothing this year because everybody was getting flagged to death. So whatever. The flagdemic, you know, was going on. But
I agree.
But so what ended up happening, there was just a little bit north of where I believe I know where you're at. But if you go to the Napa Valley, and there's a little town, is it called Carhart, or what is the name of that town? There's a little town. It's like Cars or something. I don't have my notes in front of me, man.
Is it more north, like Northern California, like
it's
Oregon?
But it's not all the way up there. It's not. It'd probably be, you know, an hour or so north of you. I think.
Oh,
that's what I think.
Would it be Fresno? Because Fresno, California is where we get all the weird, freaky stuff. Like
it's north of Fresno, and Fresno is kind of central, sort of.
Central.
Yeah.
Fresno's about 2 hours north of where I'm at, so that's more central. And then you go farther up, that's where you're going to run into like Sacramento, you know, San Francisco. So
yeah, I could look at a map, but there was a report of these blue dog type creatures there, but they were aggressive. Like highly aggressive, and they were running through people's vineyards, and they were eating grapes, which is weird. You know, they were eating grapes because they say that canines can't have grape seeds, which is weird. That's a Mandela effect to me. I remember watching a documentary about these Spanish wolves that would go in and eat the people who were, you know, grape growers for the vineyard. They were eating, and they would find these Spanish wolves in their whatever, and they were running into people, you know. But I think that they'll eat them, but they're not supposed to eat the seeds. I think that's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Because it'll hurt their kidneys. But these blue dogs were going in and they were eating them, and every description of them had to be a blue dog. But when the people would go to try to confront them or whatever, they would attack them. They were aggressive and even bit one of the workers and began to exsanguinate him from his arm. There was like a weird puncture mark on his arm, and it was in a Mexican newspaper that he says, and it was like basically the headlines were Tijuana man had been attacked while working in the vineyards of the Napa Valley and was attacked by vampiric dog, you know, was the headline. It was like a Spanish thing or whatever. But it was years ago, probably 15 years ago at this point. But I remember seeing like he had like a little indention where there were two bite marks. Nothing on the bottom. It was just like two top things, and then there was like this mark on his arm where it had sucked a bunch of blood out of him. And by the time they had pulled it off of him and tried to kill it, they couldn't kill it. And the only thing that worked was they hit it with fire. Like they lit it on fire and it ran off. Shooting it didn't stop it. So Yeah, it's a really weird thing. I'm going to look it up on the map.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll have to check that out because I haven't heard about that. I know our weird cryptids out here, like if you go 2 hours north of where I'm at, we get the night crawlers in Fresno. We get, of course, being out here, we're Sasquatch City. I mean, more Northern California, but a lot of reports out in LA too. People seeing Dogman like creatures and Sasquatch. So in Bear Valley, especially. So, but yeah, and then Josh, when I was on your show, was about a month ago, we were talking about the rebobs, the devil monkeys. Those are in Napa Valley area too. So Northern California is a high strangeness area.
Definitely
I don't know if it's native burial grounds or just, like I say, I've only been doing this for 2.5 years, getting into the cryptids. So I'm learning a lot as much as I can. And I try to share everything I've learned throughout, the last year or two as much as I can with everybody. And I try to share in all groups, But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely try.
Okay. So I was way off, dude. It's Concord.
Oh, Concord. Okay.
Concord, yeah. That was the area where it was at. So I was way off, dude.
Concord. I was trying to think. I'm like, man, you said Carhartt or something like that. I was like,
yeah, I was like thinking of something else.
I'm pretty familiar with Northern California, but I'm like, there's some, unless it's like a little oddball farm town, that you might drive right by. So we got a lot of those out here.
Another weird place is Stockton.
Yes. I lived there for a little bit, right south of Stockton.
Do what?
I lived south of Stockton for about 12 years ago for about 6 months, and it's definitely a weird area.
What kind of stuff did you get coming out of there?
I don't have really looked too much into the Stockton area. I just think the area you get a weird vibe of it. It's just like Fresno. When you go towards the mountains of the area, your hair stands up on your arms. That's just the feeling I get. It's really. I don't know if it's a paranormal or just a eerie feeling. It's just you just feel like something's watching you, or you just feel uncomfortable. You feel like
how the LBL does too. There's just there's weird areas around that.
Yeah, like you said, LBL. You sense like something's watching you, even though you can't see it. Feels like something's watching you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of get that feeling when you go from San Francisco to San Jose. You kind of go up the hill, and then when you get to the other side and you kind of feel weird, like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's just me. I've traveled all over California. I even stayed there for a little while because I was kind of I was nomadic when I was in my late teens. I kind of traveled, and I was in Bishop, California, Mule Days. And I was down in Bishop, and I, the people there, they hate LA. Because
of course,
drained. Yeah, there was a war. They fought the people from LA because they drained the lake, and Lake Bishop's nothing but a desert now. So obviously they hate their guts. But and I went in there, and I was in California, and so I had I had an LA Dodgers hat on. I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I didn't have a lot of money, and I was down in I was over there off of Venice Beach. And so he sold me a Dodgers hat for like $10 or something, whatever. I was wearing it and keep the sun off my head, whatever. So I was in Bishop and I sat down at a little diner. They were all like, "Are you a Dodgers fan?" I'm like, "No, I'm from Texas." And they're like, "Well, you shouldn't wear that hat around here because it says LA on there." And they told me all this story. These old timers came and just gathered around and, they told me about the Bishop War and all that. And I was like, wow, all that happened? They were like, yeah. And so people from LA, they're just not real. They're not, but people from LA are weird anyway. It's like
I think there's a lot of people out here in California that are. It's definitely a weird state. I'll be honest. I live out here, and I'm just like, why do I live here? Why don't I move back east? I need to move back west, Midwest. But I'm like, why am I here? I know my family and my wife's family. We're all here. We're entrenched here, but it's just like, why? It's just like, I'm not going to get into politics or anything, but some of the things that they pass, I'm just like. California is definitely the test state for everything else. I mean, it's just not just cryptids that are freaky that give you that weird feeling. I mean, like you said, passing from San Francisco just down into San Jose, it's just like like I said, that's a whole other story. I won't even go there. But
and then they try to tell us that that's the template for the rest of the country, and you're like, really?
Yes.
But Shane, you're a lot younger than me, and now when I was younger, like I'm Krista and Brandy, a little bit younger than they are, right? Y'all are about my age. So you remember, I mean, y'all been to California, right? You've been there, right?
I have not.
Never been
to
California.
Wow. Oh, you've been there? Okay.
It was beautiful. I mean, you had that you drive on that Ocean Drive. What's it called? The
was it 101 or
the 101? The
Highway
101, it is so beautiful. I mean, you take that Pacific Coast Highway, it is like, especially back in the 90s, it was like a magical experience. You're driving and you're like, the ocean is just right there. It's so blue and so beautiful, and you're just driving, and it's just nice. It's a wonderful thing. And then you go up to the Northern California, and it's just the redwoods, and from there all the way up into Oregon, all the way up into Washington, it's just magical. It's wonderful. Everything smells good. And it's just like I had these happy feelings from being there. Mm-hmm. And now I went back a few years ago and I was like, dude, this is the devil's armpit, dude. Like, what the hell? I mean, it was rough. I was down in San Francisco, and me and Scorpion had to step over a guy that was rigged up to go to the bathroom. And I said, okay. And I had to go and tell the clerk, I said, I think this guy may be deceased. I'm not joking. And the guy just rolled his eyes like, oh, like another person, like he didn't even, I don't know, man. It wasn't like, it was weird. It was really weird. Like how they were just so nonchalant and used to all the shenanigans, dude.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, like you said, I mean, you can drive still, go through California, and it's, to me, I'm 2 hours away from everything. So I think I'm in the best spot. But I mean, if you can look past the weirdness and the politics and stuff, there's still a lot of that out here. So, I mean, you got, excuse me, sorry. I think I got my wife's hair in my hat. Sorry. Yeah, there, my bad. But I mean, you can still go. Like where I'm at, I'm central, like just right north of LA, but I'm 2 hours from the ocean, 2 hours away from the desert, 2 hours from the Sequoia National Forest. So it's like, hey, I can go anywhere I want within 2 hours. But if one day I want to go up into Fresno to go look for Dogman or Sasquatch, we literally are there. We'll rent a cabin for the weekend and just head on up. And it's like Josh was saying, it's like you smell. It's just it's a different type of atmosphere out here. And it's like I said, if you can look past the politics and the weirdness, I mean, it's not a bad state to be in. But then again, it's expensive to live here.
Right.
Gas
right.
$5. It's crazy.
Yeah. How close are you to where like the Patty was?
Oh, Patty's in Northern California. I'm probably like 10 hours south of that. I would say 9 to 10 hours.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's more, I think, closer to the Oregon border. Redding, California, I believe. Bluff Creek, I think.
Redding's cool. Yeah. It's a lot of weird stuff there too.
Yes, a lot of people out there that are pretty strange. They like their medicinal medicine. Eureka, California.
Right. Right.
But yeah, no, it's other than that. I mean, that's where the famous picture. To me, I think it's a Dogman. We've had it verified at the NADP. It's the one photo of the Dogman. You can see it's in the Jedediah National Forest. The Dogman's walking away. The dude, this real quick story behind it, the dude was hearing some growling type sounds. You can go check it out on the website and go to the archives and look it up. But the gentleman had took out his flip phone and snapped 2 pictures. Jody interviewed and our former Region 1 director, Dev Rooney, interviewed the guy, and he sent the pictures, and then they don't believe he was telling a lie at all. They had it verified by some professionals, and they said it's a legit photo that hasn't been tampered with. But you see an outline of what looks like a bipedal canine walking into the tree line, and you can see that it's green, and then you can see it like the light, it absorbs the light. When you hear these encounters of Dogmen, when they flash their light on them, that their fur just absorbs the light, or even with Sasquatch. But that's what this photo looks like. And then when you invert the photo, it looks even creepier. So it's just, you don't see the face, you just see behind the head and the ears and what looks like a possible tail. But this thing where he was taking the picture at an angle, I think, like it was down into the hill, and you see it walking into the tree line, but it stood up so high. It's just like, man, to me, is one of the best photos. And then again,
so where can people see that photo?
You can go to the North American Dogman Project.com, go under the evidence, and you can go look down at the pictures, and it's on there. And then if you go to the archives where there's the map of all the encounters we have on there, and it's not all of them because our inbox is full, and I know Jody's got to get someone on there to update the map, but I think it was updated as of 2021. But if you go to California and go to Northern California and you click on the Jedediah National Forest, that picture will pop up. You can just type in Dogman photo on Google, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it one of the first 10 photos. So that, to me, that photo is pretty legit. I mean, we all know how people feel about photos and red circles. When you got 30 red circles in one photo, I that's hard for me to believe, you know. It's like that there's 30 dogmen or 2 Sasquatch hanging out with a dogman. But then again, like I say, photos are subjective. Some people see stuff. Sometimes I see stuff, sometimes I don't. I'm just like, well, I know the human mind tries to pick up things. Just like when you look at the clouds and you're like, oh, look, I see a well.
Right.
Is it really a well? No, it's not. But some people do see things. And that's where I think the woo and the paranormal aspect comes into the dogman and the Sasquatch. Are their hairs able to absorb light and bend it to where when you do take a photo, it's blurry? Or, you know, do they have some way they can disrupt the electromagnetic field around them to where when you do have your camera and your battery, you know, you have a full charge and then your phone's dead 2 to 5 minutes later, you know? It's just different things that you can really
forgot, as Josh said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just
absolutely. Hello? Oh, that was Brandy. She's trying to reboot and come back on.
Oh,
just
sorry, I had to delay my Wi-Fi.
Nope, totally understand. So what got you into this whole dogman?
Well, that's the funny thing is I was a non-believer. I don't know if I've told you that before on our last interview. I know it was probably, a year or two ago, I think, Krista. But what really got me into it was my buddy was saying, hey, you wanted to go see a dogman. And I just laughed at the name. I'm like, dude, dog. When you type in dogman, you get the cartoon book. So you laugh it off like what we were talking about earlier. The name is funny. So my buddy was sitting there. He's like, dude, you got to listen to these encounters. And he was referencing Dogman encounters. So I listened to a couple of them and it sounded too good to be true. So I was like, nah, man. So I started looking into it and getting a little fascinated with it. And I started diving more and more into it. Some of these encounters, I'm just like, wow, these people are just, you know, I don't know if it's creepypasta that they're just selling their 15 minutes of fame, but to me, they sound pretty legit. So I started Googling more and more about it. And then I dove in head first and I'm like, wow. And then that's where I just was like, man, I started listening to I became almost obsessed, I would say. And I wanted to read more and listen to more. And I could say right now, I probably listen to countless hours. I listen to at least an encounter or 2 a day. Or I try to Google something or I try to read something. And that's what I'm trying to do with the NADP Facebook pages is try to make them available to where anybody can join and, you know, come forward to share your encounter. We'd like to listen to you, hear you out, and, you know, put it in our archive so it's there. And if people want to read the encounters and say, oh, this is just made up, or I want to hear the guy on it, I need to get behind a screen and look at him. Well, you can do that too, but this is just them telling their encounter, you know? So that's what try to make it available for them. And that's really the same thing with West Coast. It's like I say, any West Coast page, you could probably find it on Facebook. If you just type in West Coast, cryptid, and one of my 6 pages will pop up. But, you know, that's what really got me wanting to do it was diving more into it. Like I say, my friend Andrew Zamora, he's the one that really got me into it. And then it's just, like I said, I dove in head first and I ended up meeting you, Krista, Brandy, Josh. There's so many good people in this community. I'd say like 90%. Okay, let's just say 90%. But I believe there's good in everybody. And that's just the way, you know, I was raised up on a ranch, growing up the cowboy lifestyles. You wanted to accept everyone for their word and take them for their word. But then again, we know, all 4 of us do know that there's people in these fields to where they don't want to be your friend. They want to see you crumble. They want to take you out. All this, and that. So I try to just, you know, be civil with people. Luckily, I haven't had to run into any discrepancies with anybody. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I just try to be friends with everybody. And honestly, I've made friends with you guys. I feel more like you guys are my friends more than my own friends. I don't even talk to my own best friend. I haven't talked to him in 3 months. You know, it's just, I don't know. That's what I love about the cryptid community, though. I believe that 90% of the people in these fields are good, and we all have the same common goal is to learn and want to know about what the heck are these things? Are they interdimensional? Are they flesh and blood? Whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, you know, Goat Man, Bear Man. I mean, there's so many different mans. You know, you think of an animal, you think of man. That's what. Who knows what they're creating in the lab right now? You know? I thought the most interesting one. I don't know if you ladies have heard of the Bearilla. That's what gets me is the Bearilla.
I've seen some kind of documentary on it.
Yeah, I to me, I'm like, that's just a.
We call it the Bear King down here.
Bear King, yeah. And it's like you think that well, looking at a Dogman aspect, I'm like, oh, that's the super soldier one. That's what it looks like. But no, it's like the locals say, no, it looks like a bear and a gorilla mixed together. It's a bearilla. But the reports, when you read on a little bit of it, it sounds like a super soldier Dogman or the canine variant 4. And I'm just like, no, wait, we got to be open minded to it. Can't just jump to conclusion and say that's a Dogman, that's a Dogman, that's a Dogman.
Sure.
No, we got to, like Nick Valente says, we have to. I had a brain fart. I forgot his old saying. We have to prove to disprove is what it is, and see what it is. You can't just say everything's a Sasquatch, or you can't say everything's a Dogman. We really have to vet it out and see what it really is. Is it a new species, or is it a
everywhere, dude?
Well, I mean, you got to think about this too. I mean, think about how many different names that Sasquatch has. I mean, it's all the same thing, but look at all the different names. I mean, this could be the same thing that you're describing here. It's the same thing that you're talking about. They just have a different name for it.
Well, and I think that's what's with the Dogman community. I think it's starting to gain a little traction is the different names. Like maybe the Bearilla might be a Dogman. I don't know. That's just my opinion. It looks like a Dogman, sounds like a Dogman, but like you said, Bearilla, that is one name that could be it. We got the Rougarou. I mean, that Rougarou to me is more, I think, of a skinwalker than a werewolf than it is a Dogman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a term, the Wolfman, like we talked about earlier, Brandy. That's what you grew up, in the name Wolfman or Beast of Bray Road. It just seems like that the Dogman gets more of its nicknames from famous farm roads and it being putting beast in front of it. The Beast of Elkhorn, the Beast of Bray Road, the Beast of Germantown Road. I mean, there's just so many different nicknames for it. We know it's a beast, obviously, but it's like these names are picking up track. But like you said with the Sasquatch, we out here in California, I mean, we have Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Patty. I forget what the natives have out here for their nicknames. For what they have, not nicknames, but what their tribes call them. I mean, like the Genosqua in Canada. I mean, there's different names. They're all pretty much describing the same thing. Is it a variant or a cousin of the Sasquatch? So
right.
So much of what you just said too, like you're talking about the Bearilla. We literally made a song about the Bear King because that's what it's called here. In Central Texas is the Bear King because it's so large. It's like 8-9 foot tall. Cryptid, and the most recently, because we were talking about it, I got a report about it last Thursday, and I have several colleagues of mine who've covered reports, and we've had a couple different people come on the show and describe what they saw, and they were like, no, it was a bear-looking creature, and it was not a bear, but it looked like a bear. And people will tell me, oh, that's a Dogman, that's a Dogman, that's a Dogman. It's like, no, it wasn't no Dogman. It was not a. It was definitely wolf-like. And then you're talking about the Rougarou, I was saying earlier on the show, I'm going to tell that story tomorrow on their show, because there was somebody who gave me a story from Louisiana, and he's Creole. And he was talking when he was a kid. Yeah. And it was more like I'm not going to give it away, but it was a really interesting and compelling story, but it was like they were stalked by something, and it was, I believe it had something to do with black magic. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. And it was somebody that could change. Now, they never saw him change or whatever, but if you ever listened to J.C. Johnson, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of him.
I've heard of him, and I haven't heard his stuff, though.
Yeah, David Weatherly, a good friend of mine, one of my colleagues, his friend was J.C. Johnson was his friend. And he told me stories firsthand that J.C. had. I never got the pleasure to meet the guy, but I listened to him talk. And there again, like he died under weird circumstances. The way he died, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. But he had spent time on the Navajo reservation, and he watched people shapeshift, and he would talk about it. And he believed that some of these reports we were getting of what a Dogman is or was were actually shapeshifters of different kinds, not just natives, but people who were dabbling in things that they shouldn't have been dabbling in. And what they ended up doing was like getting stuck. And I've talked to natives about that too, that's a very real thing.
Oh, wow.
And one of the guys that recently I did a show about, his name was Joel. It was Joel. Gerald was the first guy, but they talked about that being a possibility too, that you could get stuck that way. So you're taking a risk because you have to do certain things to change and certain things to change back. And you would still have your faculties to a degree. So some of these beings would just go to certain areas and just, according to JC, they would go to certain areas.
Nope. Did we lose you?
I think you froze a little bit. Hey, I thought it was just all my problem tonight. I guess it isn't. Not just my problem.
Well, that was weird.
Yeah, you froze up on us a minute, Josh.
Froze up.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime we talk about something that's too true, they get the weirdness happens.
Oh, yeah.
I'm being serious. It does happen. So he said that, there was one case in particular, I remember him talking about it, that it was a guy that had changed, and it was on some farm, and I can't even remember the state, but the guy that lived in the area, they went and they investigated, these people investigated it, and they told him, the guy said, I know the guy. He's stuck. Like, he's stuck that way. Please don't kill him. He's my friend. And he was practicing and doing things he shouldn't have been doing, and he achieved it, but he couldn't change back. And those tend to be the ones that are just kind of doing it alone. They don't have like a group to help them do whatever it is they're doing. But I stand by this, and I might sound crazy, but I'm telling you the truth. And I really believe that one day me and others like me will be vindicated. And I mean, even if it takes when Christ returns or however that comes about, the truth will be revealed that these people are doing these things, and they are really able to manipulate the matrix that we live in. It's like a cheat code, and they know how to do it. And I believe that the natives have known all along. I mean, Skinwalker Ranch, come on. And we talked about Tom Winterton when he was on, with you guys. The ladies do a great job. They book some amazing guests.
I know. I unfortunately don't get to watch a lot of the lives, but I do catch them when I'm listening at work, So like I say, you guys that's why you're one of my favorite podcasts. You, Josh, you guys say you're top 5 in my book. And
knocking it out of the park. These ladies do some amazing work. They're very underrated big time. I tell people that all the time. I was like, you want to watch some good stuff? Go. And it's not by accident. They're hardworking. They're always at every conference. They're like, we're in New Zealand today. We're going to be in Australia tomorrow. Then we're going to go on to Indonesia. And like you're always somewhere. I mean, like you're like Adam Davies, of the female Adam Davies. You're like all over the place, But
I give Krista and Brandy credit. They work full-time jobs. They have families, and then they still were able to put on awesome podcasts. It's like, I don't know how you ladies do it, but kudos to you. And
thank you both.
Let's get to thank you. You guys are awesome. And like I said, keep up the great work. And, hopefully we get the subscribers. Like Josh said, you're underrated. We need to get more subscribers.
Like and subscribe, everybody. If you're listening, like and subscribe, because
please do.
They do a lot of amazing work, and they deserve a lot more credit, whatever. Just kudos to them. But they had Tom Winterton on, and it was a great conversation. It was cool. I got to meet him. I didn't know him, anything like that about him. But Skinwalker Ranch, there's a reason why the Utes say that it's in the path of the Skinwalker, because it is. And then they're like, people are surprised that weird stuff happens there, and the Utes are like, not us, because we told you there's weird stuff that happens there. It's a place of shape shifting, and that when there's certain areas like that exist, they exude an energy, like we were talking about, Shane, going in between, like Fresno, for example, Stockton. There are certain places in California where I felt weirdness, like I felt it on me. Redding is another one. Like Redding feels weird.
Yes.
Somebody was talking about being the Marines. Of course, if you're a Marine, you're on the west coast of the Mississippi. You do your training at Fort, not Benning. That's Army. Don't tell me. Pendleton, Camp Pendleton. Yes. And then you go to if you're doing, if you're doing more, then you go and you learn rappelling and all the other things at MCTC, which is the Marine Corps Training Center there in Redding. And then, of course, you might end up in 29 Palms, where it's disgusting and gross and there is nothing there. But there's a lot of Marine Corps influence there in California, but they call them the Hollywood Marines. I don't know why, but I've talked to several Marines who've seen a lot of weird stuff at all those places. So California is a very, like, if you were to just go from the south to the north, it's a long drive. It's like going from the bottom of Texas to the top. Both states are very long, but you everything in between. If you were to hit all of these weird spots, I guarantee you'd have some kind of encounter of some kind.
Mhm.
And I think that the NADP's done a really good job of cataloging that. And of course, that was you. You've been the director of the California for a long time, right? A few years.
Actually, for Region 1. So Region 1, I actually, Deb Rooney, when she sat down, nominated me about almost 2 years ago. So
Wow.
we have the 11 states in the West, from Montana, Wyoming, all the way up to Alaska and Hawaii. So, and down to, I think it's, Nevada and California. So pretty
Wow.
much the whole Western region of the United States, I cover it.
If you go though, the NADP has done a pretty good job, or at least they did until the split. And then the archives kind of got shuffled around, and I'm not going to say anything because, I know one of the people involved in that. But I know that they were a source for us, at one time. Art Vyers is the director down here in Texas, and now he's with the IDP. But, when you look at
great guys.
Yeah, great guys. I mean, but when you look at their reports that come in, I mean, the people there take it seriously, and they do field a lot of reports, and there's a lot of reports there. And if you look at them, I kind of made a deal with Jody and Nick a long time ago to have access to it, and I exchanged information. So there was a free flow of information there between us. And then some little dude kind of got in the middle of it. But what ends up happening, it always happens. But, we had for years, there was this, kind of like I'm not really a part of the NADP, but I worked very closely with them, and we were fielding reports back and forth. And, we throw stuff come across my desk from one of these guys, and they'd be, what do you think of this? And I would look at it, and give them something in return, and then we just kind of back and forth. And we did a lot of research together. And so Jody, kudos to him for building something. The only problem I had, and Jody knows this, I've been very public about it, is that I didn't want it to be like the BFRO, because I didn't want them to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, hey, these reports are a little too woo-woo, so let's just pretend like that doesn't exist. And one of the naughty words was werewolf. So in the first few years that I was in this field, I was not allowed to say werewolf if I dealt with, a certain podcaster, or ADP, and so I started telling people, hey, maybe it's a werewolf. And everybody's like, oh my God, and then you're talking about weird stuff, it's like, because this phenomena is weird. You're dealing with an upright canid that can move around on its hind legs super fast, and they do things that defy logic. Well, if you stopped and you looked at it, not just from a biblical perspective, like I kind of do, but you also look at it from a scientific perspective of, we don't really know everything that's going on to the quantum level. And my wife calls it quantum paranormal, because that's the cellular level where it's happening at. And if you were to take a microscope and you were to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you went past the atom, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. So you're starting to go like, are we all just kind of living in like an agreed upon illusion? And of course, there is a name for it. There's a tribe. They're called the Yatki. And I don't know if many people know what that is. But the bad guy in their legends is literally called the Lord of Illusions. And they will drink a type of what's just like whatever they got handy, but a lot of it is mescaline, or like psilocybin, whatever. And they'll mix it together and they'll drink it, and they'll have visions and stuff like that. And one of the things that they do is they get in touch with, and it's they're from Mexico, but right near the border, and there are not a lot of Yetkis left. But if you were to talk to one of their medicine men, you would understand like where they're coming from. What they say is that shape-shifting is as simple as getting in the right frame of mind. And if you cast off this physical flesh and say, this isn't real, none of this is real, we're all just, this is bullcrap, and you do that, and you get in that frame of mind, you cast off the world will come apart, like shatter, and then you can walk into what is real, because this we're being enchanted to them, the Lord of Illusion, which they call him like Hippolote or Hyalote or some. There's a name that I don't want to butcher it, but it starts like with a J, but it's pronounced with an H, whatever. But he is like literally casting a spell on all of us. And so he polluted God's creation. This is their belief, but he polluted God's creation. And so we are like literally stuck in this sort of like flesh suit that's not even real. And none of this is really real. And it's just kind of like a simulation to see who is actually moral.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you find morality by taking the button, which is peyote. And if you take certain things, then you can find the real reality. Another weird thing they do is they live amongst the mesquite. So mesquite thorns, if anybody doesn't know this, they're poisonous. So from early childhood, they stab themselves with it so they become immune to it. But it also can work in tandem, get this, with rattlesnake venom. And I'm not suggesting anybody do this. Please do not run out and do this. It's what their shamans do. And they will ingest this stuff. And they will become almost dead. And it works together with the other drugs. And they take this really potent, noxious mixture. And they lay there pretty much dead. And if they die, they die. That's it, But they come out of their body and they walk through the land of the illusion. And eventually, once they break through and they see the other side and they know what's what, then they come back. And then you can become a teacher. And so that is kind of like their whole shtick. That sounds trivial to say it that, but that's what they do. And so, it's really weird when you stop and you look at like the shape-shifting aspect of it. It is in every native culture. Yeah, and even though people want to say, oh, the Gugwe comes from this region, the Genoskwa comes from this region, let's put it all in a box. The Yatkis believe this, the Utes believe this, the Navajo believe this. And of course, we've adopted the term skinwalker, which I don't think is such a bad thing. I have two friends that are very close to me. One's half Navajo, those full-blooded. And I don't see them complaining. They're not out there like, hey, stop using the term skinwalker. That's our term. No, nobody's doing it. They're just calling it. It's like, unless you're Barton Nunnelly, who loves Coca-Cola, I'll call everything a Coke. When you say Coke to him, he wants an actual Coca-Cola. For me, you can say Coke and you can bring me a Shasta. I'm like, Ken, I don't care, but my friend Barton, he's serious. He wants a Coca-Cola. Okay, what I'm talking about is like you're a skinwalker, but you could also say that you're, Wendelushi or whatever. You can say all these different terms, I mean, Yakaloti or something like that. I think that's the name that they use. But anyways, it's these different terms for the same thing. And they achieve the same thing, but different ways. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. There's a few questions actually for both of y'all. Little Patty has a question for Josh. Question to Josh. The Beast of Bray Road, is it classified as a Dogman, werewolf, or Bigfoot?
All three. I don't want to take up all the time. Shane, I mean, if you want to talk.
No, it's to you, brother. We're all in this together.
Actually, I want to hear what Josh's opinion is, and then Shane, what your opinion is.
There we go. Because I want to make sure that the guests, people are going to lampoon me if I talk too much, and I do.
No, you're good.
You're good.
I have my own show, and they're like, he's on every day. I was like, I have a lot to say. Come on.
I honestly don't, like I say, I don't think it's an interview. I think it's just four friends just hanging around talking about something that we all share.
That's what we do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So, Josh, you shoot, and then I'll shoot second.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly, Kate. Coca-Cola Classic or nothing at all. That's that's Barton. I actually got Barton a Coca-Cola silver coin for Christmas, and he loved it. And I saw it on eBay, and I thought nobody else is going to want that. It's just a Barton thing. He's going to want that, so I got it for him because he's a really good friend of mine. But it's funny, the Beast of Bray Road, and it's funny that Barton, we were just talking about him because him and I had conversations on the phone with Linda Godfrey, and he knew her way better than I did. He knew her for a lot longer. They were a lot closer, right? Mm-hmm. So I felt honored to just be able to sit there the first time and just listen to them talk like old friends. And Barton is such a warm person. When he talked to her, you could tell there was so much care when he talked to her, and she loved Barton, and by extension, she loved me. And we had talked a few times, about different cases, things like that. But we became really close the last 3 years of her life. But the Beast of Bray Road, she believed, and I'm going to say this, and this is not talking for her, but I'm telling you what she told us, and Barton can attest to this, and several of her other friends, I know them very well. We were just talking about one, David. But she said that the term Dogman, although it was from Michigan, it kind of spilled over into Wisconsin, their neighbors, she was never 100% like on board with that term, but it was the regional term. And she didn't know if we were dealing with a dogman or a werewolf or what. And when they did the show Monster Quest, and Doug Hychek, who's the producer of the show, he's a good friend of mine. I like Doug a lot. But they got one thing wrong. And this isn't calling Doug out on it. The show in itself, he wasn't responsible for everything. There was a case where these people claimed to have seen a creature run across the road and jump over a fence, down over a culvert, over not a fence, what do you call that? The railing. Linda was very adamant that was not a dogman, that what they had seen was a Bigfoot. But then in the documentary, they made it out like it was a dogman, but it really wasn't. It was a Bigfoot. But this was not even like maybe 2 or 3 miles from the first Bigfoot Bray Road sighting, and really, really close to the bridge where the kids had seen it and were shooting at it with a BB gun, which I don't recommend. But I've shot bulls with BB guns too, and had them chase me up a tree because I grew up stupid in the country. But yeah, for real. I mean, I've done some stupid things. We used to go up and slap the bulls and then run, and but yeah. So she was adamant that it could have been anything, all 3 or any of the above. But one thing she was really, really adamant about toward the end, in particular, because she had started to change her views. She's like, these things come from somewhere else. Her opinion. I'm not saying this is mine or what I believe, but I respect her, and I believe, and Barton was very, accommodating in that too. He believed that these things they would come from somewhere else. They would come out of their reality into our reality. And the longer they stayed here, the more they had to, eat and drink and live like we do. And they become more and more like us. Now, as far as an actual werewolf, there were a couple of weird cases that Linda had covered, and I know one of them that I covered here in Texas, of a green mist that's been seen around these creatures. And I had a guy on my show that I interviewed one time that talked about seeing this silver mist. Now, that's another one. They would see like a silver mist or haze around them, and he had seen that, and he was on our show, one of the earlier episodes. And I remember doing research, and after that episode, somebody had messaged me and said that they had seen both. Like a silvery mist up in the air, like a haze. And then when this thing began to like dance around and kind of change, it was green. Linda talked about that, this family that had seen one right at their front door, and it was doing this kind of weird up and down thing, and there was this green mist coming off the ground, and it changed. So, I think that's the Beast of Bray Road could be any of those or all of the above, and probably was a multi-layered deal. Some type of shapeshifter would be my opinion, and there were Bigfoot there too. So that's what I think. But go ahead, Shane. Your turn.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it could be a thing. It could be all 3. And like you said, the green mist. There always seem. I mean, out there. An Elkhorn, I think it was on Lee Hample's farm, where they took pictures, and I think obviously, like I say, photos are subjective, but they did get one photo where there's like a fog or a type of mist where they tried baiting it, like they put a stake out, and then you see the one picture, I think it was like a trail cam that snapped it, and it clearly was some mist there. So there's got to be a paranormal aspect to it. I hate the word cryptid. I mean, I really, not to say I hate it, but I Barton's and humanoid word has really grown on me. So these things, where are they coming from? They're in humanoids. Are they coming from another dimension? Are they coming from inner Earth? Look at the cave systems. I mean, the underground cave system out near LBL, Kentucky, going along with the missing 411. It's I don't know. There's just so much high strangeness to this phenomenon. I mean, like you said earlier, though, Josh, we have to look at it from every different perspective. We have to look at the paranormal aspect to it. If you're in the camp of, is this thing flesh and blood? Well, maybe not. You can't think, you have to be open-minded to it. So we have to prove to disprove, like Nick Valente says, we have to, so I think it is a mixture of all 3. I really do. Yeah. It could be a Bigfoot, but when Linda Godfrey, like you said, she did the reports, they're seeing an upright Canaan out there. But like you said, that one that ran across the road and jumped the fence, maybe that was a Bigfoot. But Dogman been known to leap, 10 foot.
Oh, yeah. So it was just the description that the couple gave, because she was like, that was not a, it was in the books. I think she even says, I think it's in the first book, The Beast of Bray Road. For me, my favorite Linda Godfrey book was Hunting the American Werewolf. And I thought that to me was just, that really hit home to me. And I put that in my top 5 of books. And then, of course, Barton's Inhumanoids. We're talking about David Wedley earlier. If you want to get Alaska, his Alaska book, very interesting. The Tellmen, man, creepy, weird stuff like the Ottermen and all that. The Pushtaka, you know.
Randy and I will let you know about Bray Road, because we actually are going this summer.
Really?
Yes.
We've been invited.
Yes.
You guys are like
lucky.
going everywhere. You're like globetrotters.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited too about this one. I'm not gonna lie, because that the guy that his field, you know, that he's shot pictures and all that, we're going there to his place.
The guy's farm. Yeah, it's there again. We were talking about David. David did an investigation up there with Chad Lewis.
Yeah.
You know Chad? You guys know Chad?
No, not personally, no.
We need to get Chad on the show. We'll get Chad on the show. I'm going to message him and talk to him. I'll bring David on too if I can get him on. I just shot him a text right now to see if he was watching, or maybe he was up to watch or whatever. But I'll see if we can get him on, because they did investigations out there. It's, what's the guy's name? What's his last name? The farm that everybody goes to.
I'm not too sure.
Are you talking about up in Wisconsin or?
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Yeah. The Lee Farm.
Lee.
That's
The Lee Farm. Yeah.
David was talking about, and I don't want to say too much, because if we get him on the show, let him say it, let him talk about it.
I'd like to know.
Yeah, he heard some weird stuff, you know, and I believe he was saying something about the Fae, you know, what he thinks may or may not be going on, which I've said this before too. They shapeshift into things too. You know, I mean, not only do they do it, but there are aliens that I believe, I'm going to say this, they are not necessarily from outer space, but they come from somewhere else. They're not the local people. They're not the little people. They're not the Shin, because it says in the Hadith of the Quran that they have neighbors.
Yeah.
And of course, there's several books that are not in the Bible. We're not going to get religious, but they talk about different levels, different heavenly levels and different earthly levels. And of course, the Norse, even, they have Midgard and Asgard, and they have all these different levels, and there are different creatures that come from different places. And of course, we have the sub-nature, you know, like the dwarves. People see them and they're like, what are these? You know, they're not people. Yeah. And they have a sort of a mystical quality to them, because Ron Moorhead said something in one of my groups the other day, and I was tickled that he had made a comment about it, because I said shapeshifters are real. And I'm pretty sure it was in the Paranormal Roundtable group, and everybody commented on it. And Ron said something to me, and Ron had this conversation at the conference. We were there one night, and everybody was talking. It was the after party, ladies. I don't remember the first after party. You know, there were two after parties. But we were all there, and me and Ron were kind of off to the side, and I was talking to him, and he was telling me, you know, he's like, very, very brilliant guy, but he was like, you know, everything is vibration. He's like, anything can happen if you're on that same frequency. And it wasn't a coincidence that he ended up getting the Sierra Sounds, because I think BMR, what's up, Boomer? But you know, he's right though. When you break it down into its purest form, the one thing we know is that vibration controls everything, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I really believe that is where a lot of this is coming from. And I think that can be shape-shifting, whatever. I mean, you know, because you can see it you're on that certain level. And that's one thing that J.C. Johnson said. And I've heard David say the same thing. Chad Lewis has said, you know, we all kind of hit that same level, you know. And even one of my dear friends is very Aper oriented, which is Ken, you know, he said it too. It's energy. I mean, it really is. And it's something we can't comprehend. And if you look at the direction of the field, where it's going and where it's headed, as you know, 5 years ago, where I was, and I hate to say this because it sounds like the Napoleonic Wars or something, but I was embroiled in a war with these people who were, this thing's of flesh and blood. And you stupid apostate, you just piece of crap, you know, blah, blah, blah. You go to hell, and you die. And I'm like, look, I said this before, I said it again, and I'll keep saying it until the day I die. They're shape-shifting. I'm not, this sounds nuts, and I'm putting myself out there. I mean, there are people now to this day, there's a few holdovers, you know, somewhere up in their caves or whatever, on their islands, that don't want to get on board and say that this is what's happening, and they keep on railing against it. Well, People want the truth. And people,
Yeah.
you look at the numbers here. We'll look at the numbers right now. You got 281 people here that want to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, they're not going to fill a chat room with more than 30, 40 people who just want to stay in the dark ages. Go ahead and stay in the dark ages, but the truth is the truth. And you don't really have to defend it. It defends itself. And that sounds cliche, but it is that's what it is. And so these people had a vested interest in trying to keep everybody dumb. And so I eventually started speaking out, and I said, look, everybody that says anything that goes against this physical narrative that you've created, this fantasy, that you've created. And then they were like, well, you're the one with the metaphysical fantasies and this and that. And I'm like, read a book. It's called science, and I stand up for truth and what's right. And these people want me to sit down. And I'm like, that's not going to happen, because we'll be the poorer for it if we do.
Right.
And I believe in my heart that if I would have backed down 5 years ago, this field would have gone further and further into that whole muck of flesh and blood, and we'd have just been chasing our tails, and we wouldn't even be able to have conversations like this, because they were adamant they wanted to control the narrative, and they were bullying everybody who would say anything. So I had to help smash that paradigm. And I caught a lot of hell for it, but you don't see those people anymore as like you used to. They finally went on and decided to go pester someone else. And I don't know if they're taking knitting classes or what they're doing, but I'm glad they're not here, because we need to embrace all of this, and not just have one narrative. And I do believe that there's more than one thing going on. Shane, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's both, or, what are your true thoughts?
I think it's both, honestly. I tried to think about it, but at the same time, it's just, I believe like you said earlier, we have to look at it from all different aspects. You can be in the flesh and blood camp if you want, but got to be open-minded to the paranormal aspect of it. There's so many questions, and when you jump down one rabbit hole, you're jumping down another, and it's just like you said. But I think in the last I've only been in the field for 2.5 years, but from what I've seen and what I've read, we've grown, open-minded to these other different theories, and we're not just the flesh and blood camp, like you said, where, people want to try to control the narrative. Well, hey, it's 2024 now. I think we've made a lot of improvement in just the last 5 years on that. So,
yeah. And to me, it was never an issue of like forcing people to believe in what they call the woo. To me, it was just being allowed to talk about the woo without getting attacked. Yeah. And I was like, look, you guys could just let us speak without being attacked. You don't, it's not about us controlling the narrative over them, but they were just unwilling to play together at all. So they took their toys and went home, and that's fine with me. I don't care. All I said, and all I ever said, was we should be allowed to have our voice too. And it wasn't really my voice. It was more about the witnesses and them being allowed to say what they had to say, and people being too damn scared to come forward and say what they saw. Linda Godfrey, talking of Linda, God rest her soul, she wrote a book called I Know What I Saw, because she was so adamant that these people were seeing something that we could not explain. And these people that were controlling the narrative, they were like, no, you are not going to talk about that in this group. Get out of this group. I got kicked out of several groups, and I just kept going. And then those groups dwindled and dwindled and dwindled until they were no more. And they blamed me. They're like, oh, you took our people with you. No, I didn't. They just noticed I was gone, and they messaged me, and they said, where are you? I said, well, I'm over here with the sane people. Are you still up there with the lunatics? Okay, and then they came. I didn't go recruit and call a bunch of people up. I'm not that guy. And I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that crap. Who does that besides some crazy old man who believes some nonsense? I don't have time for all that stuff. But that's what people do. They get upset, and they're real tribal and clannish. We don't need that. Yeah. We just need to be able to sit down and have discussions, and everybody gets their say. And all I wanted was our place at the table. That's it. And in one of those groups, it was like if you were a Christian or you could have been any kind of religion. They didn't like you because they were all atheists. And that's fine if you're going to be atheist, but allow others to have their say. And then they would attack particular women. Like they had this thing where I guess, women weren't supposed to talk or something. It was so weird. It's supposed to be secular, but it seemed like the Dark Ages all over again. And So it really ate at me, and I was like, this is ridiculous, dude. So we got to be able to have open discussions.
Yeah.
Shane, when do you get your show back on the road?
I'm actually planning on doing it next month. We're going to try to get at least 2 guests on. I'm in the process of switching career fields into law enforcement, so I might have to go on a break. But I was talking to my co-host Todd Metz, real good buddy. We both agreed to go on a hiatus because my daughter was being born, and he wanted to go travel. I think he just got back from being back east for I think 4 or 5 weeks. So. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we're going to start. I think we're going to try to get Aaron Deese on. We're going to have Jay Bakachin, I believe his last name is.
Jay Bachochin.
Bachochin. I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I butchered your last name, Jay. But
yeah, we've had him on. He's great.
Is he? Oh, okay. Great. Yeah. So I know we have him booked. We're going to try to get Eric Mintel back. I think we're going to try to squeeze like 3 or 4 interviews in before I go on a hiatus again, unfortunately. But I'm going to try to get out and do some field investigations too. We had it planned for the beginning of this month, but with the way crazy things are going on right now, we're just like, hey, we'll try to shoot to go check out the Watts Valley Wolf Ape. Josh, remember we were talking about that about a month ago. So yeah, that's up in Fresno, California, like outskirts of Fresno. So is this thing really a wolf? Is it an ape? Is it a dogman? Is it a gugwe? I mean, it looks like it could be all 4 of them. Just like that question that person had asked earlier to Josh, what is the beast of Bray Road? Is it Bigfoot, dogman? Or what could it be? That's what this thing is. It's got 2 names. So, but yeah, so I'm going to try to get out and do some field investigations. And then to revert back a little bit, Josh, like you were talking about certain groups that aren't open-minded. That's what we're trying to change with me jumping back into the NADP and helping Jody is, we got a new team of guys that are all open-minded. And I think we have a really good team going forward that if you see a dogman that had a weird encounter and it just was like, you think there might be a paranormal aspect to it? Hey, we'll accept it. We're going to look at it from all different perspectives because that's what we're trying to do as an organization and as a group is to move forward and just accept all, whether it does sound crazy, archive it. Like Josh, we had talked about, some of them are just so crazy. I won't mention names or I won't even say the encounter, but some of these are so far out there where people are possibly raising these things that you just have to archive it until you start finding similarities. And if you get 4 more of these people coming forward saying, hey, I've been raising this thing in northern, I don't even know. I'm just saying it's just, you have to almost group it together and then you might see some similarities, but as a group, now that the NADP's, I guess you could say, rebranded, I would almost say, or refilled certain spots. And like I said, we were talking about that on your show, Josh. I'm still good friends with Nick Valente. I'm still friends with Jeremiah Fountain. I'm still support the IDP. I'm neutral on this. But the reason why I jumped in was to go back to the Region 1 spot because that's something I left on the table. And for a little bit, it took a hiatus and was like, I'm going to give it to someone else. Took it back and was like, hey, let's get this going. We're not moving anywhere. Let's move as an organization. And Jody's leading the charge. He's got some things that he's in the work with actually Doug Highcheck. I won't mention anything because he's told us to keep it hush-hush, but there's something.
Doug has said a little bit, but I mean, I know what you're talking about. But the thing about that whole situation, like with Jody and all that, it was really, it wasn't about opinion about what they were. That was never in because I was right there. I saw what was going on. It was just really about how to run things. That's all it was. And Jody had been ill, and Jody had some issues. And so I think that I hope that everybody can play together well, whatever. And there was one guy that was kind of in the middle of it, and Brandy and y'all know who he is, Krista, but he's not there now. But too bad, damage done. And I tried to warn people, but whatever, they're not gonna, And then things ended up falling the way they did. But I'm still cool with everybody as far as I know. I love Jeremiah; he's a great guy. Yeah, he's a good guy. We had him on the show here. He's been on my show a couple times.
Yeah, I listened to those, both great encounters.
He's a good dude, man. But when you get like your first guest coming back, right? Like that right there is a good starting point. I mean, like absolutely, because I think that you're on the right track. I think that you're gonna, and if you can stay with it, you'll get because you talk well, and some people they do these shows and they don't. They don't orate real well, but you're a good orator. You talk fast, but you are understanding.
I do. I get excited.
Like I say, some people, they talk fast, and then you're going like, what? I got to, hold on. Are you trying to sell me wax? What are you doing? You're not doing that. You're just like, you're talking really quick, but you're really getting to the point, and it's sometimes I do that too.
Like I say, I try sharing as what I can, and that's just because I get excited about a topic like Dogman. And
definitely tell you're passionate about it for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's like. And people ask, well, why are you in this? I'm like, well, honestly, I do want to see one day just to prove to myself that I've seen it. And I know that whether it's flesh and blood or if I have a paranormal aspect to it, I just want to be able to know that what I saw is what I saw, So I believe people when they tell me their encounters, I want to see one for myself.
A lot of times when people see them though, there's nothing that they're not exuding like some sort of weird whatever. They just see something that looks flesh and blood, but what comes with it is what's really odd. You'll start to have weird things happen, like one lady saw one. This was up in Pennsylvania, and I think it was near Pittsburgh, but it was right outside of there. But she said that after that she had weird things happening in her car. Like it wasn't a long drawn out story. She just saw something wolf-like go across the road, but for like 2 days afterwards, her windows were rolling up and down. Her radio was changing and doing weird stuff. And it was like the electrical thing. And she took her vehicle into the dealership and they're like, there's nothing wrong with it. And it had a weird electrical smell to it. And so she thinks that it had something to do with what she saw. And then she had a weird dream. And then that was it. And then, nothing else. That was like in 2006 or something. And then nothing else ever happened. But for 3 days, she was going through some weird stuff.
Yeah, that's scary.
So that kind of is the paranormal aspect to it. I want to say something. Kate Webster says, binaural beats alter our brainwave activity. A cat's purring can help heal broken bones. That is true. That is absolutely true. And Hawk says, I hate the word woo. Me too, Hawk. Me too.
Oh, yeah. Well, they say if you own a cat and you have high anxiety, that's the best animal to have, just because you can have them lay in your chest and purr as you pet them, and that's good at reducing that. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Here's another question for you, Shane. Mark asks, is there anything to Santa Clara and vampires like the movie Lost?
To be honest with you, no, not from what I've researched and looked into. Santa Clara is just south of San Francisco. That's where the Niners play, but nothing that I've seen in vampires. Yeah. Like I said with Josh, when we were on his show about a month ago, we talked about I've been up since 4 a.m. Sorry. Is it the rebar? I believe the
Rebobs, yeah.
Right, Josh?
Yeah.
The Rebobs, there we go. Sorry. I was having a brain fart. But yeah, the Rebobs, I guess, would be somewhat the closest thing. Napa Valley runs right through Santa Clara. So maybe that, like a mistaken identity, maybe the Rebobs, maybe they thought it was a vampire. I don't really think so, but nothing I've ever seen with being vampires in Santa Clara.
I've got those stories like that because they used a fictional place on the movie Lost Boys. They were called like Santa. I can't remember. There was a fictional name.
Yeah.
At the end, the old man is like, it's one thing I could never stand, all the damn vampires, and it was like they were all over the place. But I've been asked the same thing about that, and I've never heard a story from Santa Clara. I will say though that the fact that the Niners play there is pretty scary, though. I mean, that's not my thing. I'm not into that
right? Weird Might as well just call them this.
Right. Josh, you have a question here. Kate Webster wants to know, hey, Wolf, are you really going to the LBL?
Yes. I kind of have to. Barton's like telling me, look, you got to get yourself over here. And,
Oh, yeah.
He pretty much.
We got to do some camping.
Bring your fat butt over here. I said, okay, I will. And so I guess it's going to happen. We're going to try and do it this month, toward the end of the month, hopefully. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do need to get out there, though. And I'm trying to get a couple of my research friends. Like I was thinking about Rod Nichols, who's been on the show, and I invited him when he was on with BMR. And so Rod would be a good guy to go. And then I talked to Ken, and I talked to Ken again today about something else, but I had to talk to him, I was thinking, no, why not? Why don't we get him? And I know that David had been saying something about wanting to go out there. So I don't know.
Randy and I will be there. We'll meet you.
I think it'd be a good thing. I'd like to see if Brother Martin and Daryl could meet us out there. We'll have a good time, and
For sure.
I just hope that everything, calms down in this field and people just leave things alone and let's all try to work together, get along, get back on track. We all came out of the other end of this mess, and there's so many people that are trying to do good work, and it's like you can't do it because, well, you work with that person gets upset and this and that, and it's like, dude, we're all trying to find answers, man. That's all we're doing.
Right.
Exactly.
I agree.
Shane, you have another question here.
William
asks, Shane, have you personally had an experience?
No, but I do believe I had a Sasquatch watching me, to be honest with you. My wife and I were actually out up in Northern California. I'm trying to remember exactly where. It was about 2 hours north. We were out walking. It was a snow trail. We were just walking, and the whole woods were just quiet. And it was just odd. We didn't hear any birds chirping, but it felt like something was watching me. And I've shared some photos that I've snapped. I was going out taking photos and circling them, when I first started. But I shared something that looks like a Sasquatch. If you go to the West Coast Sasquatch Project page, I have something that I pinned to the features. It looks very, I want to say gorilla-like, but maybe it's just pareidolia. Yeah. And like I say, photos are subjective. I've always been one to say 50% of the people see something, 50% of the people don't. But it looks like something there. And it's like, I think I've got a photo of what could be a possible Dogman, it looks like. But like I said, I do believe I was being watched by something. My wife even said she felt weird that the back of her neck, the hairs were standing up. She's like, I just don't like, there's a weird presence here. And I think we should just turn around. We hiked about 1.5 miles in. We turned back around and left. I was just like, okay, after she fell through, because she was wearing snow boots, she fell in a little hole because the snow wasn't real packed right there. She had gotten her jeans wet, and she's like, okay, let's turn around. I just think there's a weird feeling about this. Let's just keep going and head back to the truck. So that's what we ended up doing. That would be my only weird, I'd say, experience. It's just feeling like I'm being watched when I'm out in the woods. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Krista had one too, just like that. Sounds almost identical.
Yeah. Yep. So I know exactly what you're talking about for sure.
Yep.
Hawk asked you, Shane, have you ever seen any pics of kills done by the Dogmen?
Oh yeah, we have them up on the North American Dogman Project page. I can't say that they're 100% Dogman. I'm not going to say, because photos, again, even with actual evidence, you can't say if it was a Dogman. But we do have photos on the NADP page where it looks like something that where you see the cow that's gutted down it's from its torso all the way down to its abdomen area. What could have done that? I don't know. Sure. Unless you think you have to start, selecting certain creatures and say, okay, there's not wolves in this area. There's not bears in this area. Is it mountain lion? Is it cougars? I mean, you have to be really, you have to prove to disprove what it is. But some of the ones we have on the website, it's very interesting. I wouldn't say that they're Dogmen, but my heart tells me it is, but you can go out there and check them out and you look for them yourself. Or the attack on the horses, even where they're just gouged, their necks just being ripped. I know certain predators like a mountain lion, they go for the neck. But then again, I mean, I think it was in Missouri, one of our photos where the horse was just filleted open. So it could be a Dogman. I definitely do believe it could be Dogman.
Yeah.
Santa Clara, it's called Santa Carla. And in the lost fictional city called Santa Carla.
Okay.
So there you go. Somebody Santa Clarita, but it wasn't Santa Clarita. I know it sounds close to that. Blues tomb, whatever. I think what you're saying though about the Dogman, like attacking. Somebody had mentioned one time on one of my chats, or I don't remember, it might have been one of the groups. I don't know. I'm always in a group somewhere doing something, but I remember somebody saying something about there was an argument that took place and I wasn't involved. I just observed, but I just saw them going back and forth about this picture of somebody had of a donkey that had its, it looked terrible. The thing had to be put down, the poor thing. But he said that, that it was a mountain lion. I looked at that and I said, that is not a mountain lion. I know that is not a mountain lion. And the tracks that they had, the claws were out, they're retracted on a cat. Until they have retractable claws. Canines don't, and except for one cat on Earth. Do you know what that cat is? The cheetah. The cheetah has it's such a high speed. It can run short distances at such high speed that its paws are almost like runner's cleats.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and so
didn't know that.
really weird cleats, and they don't retract their claws. So a cheetah has dog-like claws, and their paws are more related. It's really weird, but it is definitely feline. It's a beautiful cat. I've actually had the pleasure of actually petting one time. Very sweet animal. She was very nice and kind. And a friend of mine said, "It's okay." And they're like, I'm literally in my friend's living room, and it comes running around the corner. And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's Cheetah." And he goes, "Yeah, she's cool, man. She's just kind of like," and she had like a little toy in her mouth. And he's like, "Oh, she's cool, man. Just pet her, whatever." So I was petting her, and I was like, "Okay." And then she just got up on me like a cat, but kind of like a dog, And they're not as big and frightening as you would think. I've been up close to leopards and jaguars, and they're much more intimidating. Mm-hmm. Cheetahs are not real big, and she was just a sweetheart. She just wanted to play, and I threw her a toy. She was chasing it like a dog. I thought, this is cool. I'd love to have one of these animals. And I saw how fast she could get, too. He had like a little trick he did, and she just took off, and she would jump over the swimming pool, which wasn't real wide, but it was a pretty neat trick, man. But anyways, the cheetah is one of those animals. But this thing that did the damage to this donkey, it was near Marfa, Texas. And wow. I thought, this is not correct. And they were showing something, or I'm sorry, not Marfa, it was Alpine. And I looked at the photos, and that's kind of the gateway to the west. It's right there near Big Bend National Park, like it's just south of there. And so I was looking at the photos, and I said, there's no way that is what that is. And so I can't help myself. I had to say something. I chimed in, and I said, I don't think that's what that is. And they're like, well, how do you know? I said, well, none of us really know what that is, And then somebody said, well, this looks like it was done with claws. And they had a point. They said that canines, they don't really use their claws, but if you watch a wolf hunt, it'll reach out and kind of trip up an animal. And then it'll use the claws to kind of hold down on an animal. But when you're dealing with something that could be an upright canid, a wolf-like being, a werewolf, dogman, skinwalker, whatever, you have the human, whatever. Then you mix the canine paw. Now with these retractable thumbs and these fingers doing this, Benji's doing that. Now it becomes a weapon. Paws are just like this, but fingers are doing this. And so you could grab something, and take it down and take a bite because it looked like something had taken its hands or something and pulled this donkey, and it looked like the donkey had fought for its life and kicked because it was still alive when they took these pictures, but whatever it was also took a bite off the back of it.
Wow.
Okay. It was not able to get a solid bite, but whatever took that bite, no way that thing was a normal sized being. No way at all. So when you start going through the different things of what it could be, and you talk to certain people. There are certain people, and the late great Scott Martis, who was like just knew everything about prehistory. We used to talk about prehistory for hours. He would call me up after he'd light up. He'd call me up, talk about prehistory, and he did a lot of work in the Lake Champlain monster. And one of the things he said, he goes, dude, people are not looking at the possibility of these things being prehistoric predators. They could still be alive. And he was thoroughly convinced that the Tasmanian tiger was still alive and that there were various species of plesiosaurs still roaming the oceans. Very interesting guy. I named my cat after Martis, a really smart guy, but I don't want to keep talking, but that's for thought.
Wow. Pretty crazy. We are over the 2-hour mark. Wow. This went fast.
Yeah, it did go fast.
I appreciate you, ladies and Josh, having me on. Like I say, you guys are good friends of mine, all three of you.
Absolutely.
And like I say, I appreciate coming on. We'll have to do one on West Coast, and Josh, we'll have to bring you on, talk about your encounter. And Blonde, I'd love to have both you guys on co-hosting, and maybe we can do something like this. I like I say, I love these little round tables. I don't even say it's an interview. I just don't treat it like that.
We're just friends sitting here shooting the crap,
shooting the shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly how it is. So,
well, you Shane, dude, I give you a lot of credit. I had a talk with you over a year ago, and we just sat there on the phone and talked for like an hour, 2 hours. You are a very, very intelligent young man. Very, very smart young man, and I think you have a bright future. What type of law enforcement are you going into, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to go I'm going to try to get into detentions deputy, and then I'm going to try to lateral over to be an actual sheriff's deputy.
Very cool.
I mean, it's not really the line of field I really want to get into, but it's just I have to switch a career field. I mean, oil and gas out here in California, they've crippled the oil, So I'm not, like I said, not getting into politics or anything, but I have to look for something more to secure job to take care of my family, put a roof over my head, and still fund my Dogman activities.
You need to go to Texas because the oil and gas is booming here, and it has been for a long time. We got Wolf Camp, the Gulf Shelf, two largest spots in the whole country. Come to Texas, man, and if you wanted to. You're a smart guy, and you could always learn the security business because it's booming out here because of all the lunatic homeless people. Oh, dude, yeah, I got more work than I know what to do with. I kept thinking it was going to slow down. Slow down. It has not slowed down. But if you ever decide to transfer and come down here, man, I'll help you get set up. And who knows, maybe you could help work the security business. It's not hard. There's a learning curve, but I know a lot of people, and you could do something with it, Something
I'll definitely hit you up.
We do a lot of research here. My new camera just came in, thanks to Matthew Durgo, one of my Patreon members. He sent me the night vision camera, but Anthony's like, well, it has to be something we can go live with, and I'm like, well, we can't do that, but we can still use it and then do the editing for it. But we're getting geared up so we can go out and hit some of these hot spots, which I did do some work with for the NADP with some of these hot spots, and it was me and Art Vyers. We went around and we did do some boots on the ground, but I never talked about it or called it that, But that's really what it is, boots on the ground, But I'm not nowhere near like these ladies or Barton, but I'm trying. I'm going to try to get out there and see if my big ass don't get caught in some weeds or trees.
It doesn't matter what size you are. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter.
True story. We definitely appreciate everybody tonight. Special shout out to Brother Heck and Brother Heck for the memberships. William, thank you. Paranormal Paul, thank you. BMR, Hunter 1014, thank you. JD Smooth, thank you very much. And Solovino, thank you very much. We appreciate every one of you.
Good chat tonight, ladies.
Yeah.
279 people in there right now.
I know, it's wonderful. We appreciate it.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And tomorrow night, go ahead, Shane. I'm sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm just saying my internet cut out or my audio. I didn't hear anything after the last.
We were talking bad about you, so thank goodness. Yeah. Now you got to go back and see what kind of negative.
I have to go back and check it out.
Thank you, Hawk.
And thank you, Hawk, too.
Yeah, Hawk's awesome.
Much. Yes, they all are.
Thank you, everybody with the great questions. Kate with the good questions. Everybody coming with the good questions.
Yes,
everybody really good. Y'all got a good crowd in here, man.
Thanks to you because they're the same people that are in your chat.
There's a few people in here that aren't. I don't think they're all they're not all my people. There's some people in here that are your guys' people, and hopefully they'll come make the connection and come and watch our show too, and we'll all be whatever.
Well, Randy's been dropping your link tonight as well as Shane's link, so in chat. So,
yes.
Once again, the first guest you got on coming up, the next thing.
Oh, for me?
Yeah. The guest you got.
Yeah, we're gonna have Jay Bochanan. Is that?
Jay Bachochin.
Okay. Yeah.
And before that,
Todd actually my co-host.
Yeah,
so we're gonna try to get Aaron Deese on.
Aaron Deese.
Yeah,
okay.
We're gonna try to get
really quickly. I want to plug Aaron
Yeah.
because Aaron, I wrote my book the same time Aaron did, and we didn't step on each other's toes at all. Because, like Aaron said, he goes, "There's so much of it. There's so many witnesses, And people tried to get something going. They're like, "Oh, you're writing a book." Same time, Aaron, And Aaron was like, "Dude, whatever." He's a cool cat, man. He was on my show. Great book. I love him. Seth Breedlove. I'm going to have Seth on pretty soon. I just got to get the time to talk to him. We've just been really busy.
Seth is awesome.
Seth is good. The ladies have had him on, but Aaron's a good guest, man. And he's got his other book coming out too. And be sure and talk to him about it.
February 9th, you can go to Small Town Monsters and pre-order the book. It's being released on April 23rd. I think I just shared it last night, but I saw it. Small Town Monsters had shared it. So
I'm excited.
So later this month. I know, me too. And it's
I'm a fan of all this. Everybody thinks that I'm just like, no, dude, I like all of this stuff. Anytime one of my friends comes out with a new book, man, I want to check it out. I want to see what they got because, there's some reports that are so close to the ones I did. I'm thinking this could be the same creature,
Yeah.
Could be.
So go check it out. Check out Aaron's new book and check out his old book too. I mean, or his old book, old, the same time that mine came in August.
Texas Triangle.
Yeah,
Texas
Dogman, Texas Triangle, because Texas is where it's at, folks. This is it right here. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
that's a hot spot.
Yep.
Sure is. Yeah, be sure to tune in here tomorrow night again, guys. 7 p.m. We have Josh back with us, and we are gonna, I guess maybe
tell some stories.
Like part one to your show for tomorrow evening, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll do a little bit of intro. We'll do a little bit of Shane. You should come back. If you're not doing anything tomorrow night.
Yeah. Actually, my son's birthday. He's turning 12. So I'll definitely
No.
I'll bring him on. I'll just bring him on.
You'll understand. Be like, look, you have one 12th birthday, but I'm on with Josh Turner and Kristen and Brandy. Sorry.
Sorry.
Well,
he's looking at you
here.
I'll definitely. You know me. You guys need anything. I'm always
grow up beating us.
Right. He's gonna be like
20-year-old. He's
Josh
like,
Turner.
Dad, that day that you went and hung out with whatever that guy's name is, Josh Turner, or whatever, my 12th birthday. And,
no, we're not going to have that. Yeah, we're not going to have that.
No.
So you can't give it away because he's a kid. But I mean, is he going to get something good for his birthday?
Oh yeah, his mom's already got him everything. She's actually blowing up balloons right now. I got to actually go help her.
Awesome.
After this podcast, we're gonna go blow up some balloons and make it a big surprise. So
I'll tell you what, give me your Cash App or Venmo, and I'll send him a little something for his birthday too.
Oh, you don't have to do that, brother. You don't have to do that.
Trust me, okay? It's
Okay,
that's cool.
All right.
Cool.
I appreciate that.
Yes, and happy birthday to him, and congratulations on the baby. I know. How old is she now?
She just turned 4 months as of the 2nd, so 2 days ago? Yeah.
She is the cutest. She's the cutest little sweet pea. Oh, my goodness.
Sure I appreciate that.
Oh, wow. You're going to have your hands full.
Oh, yeah, she's scooting around in her bedroom. So, yeah, I'm definitely got my hands full, whether it's diving into Dogman but most of the time it's with family. So I try to balance both, but definitely.
Well, the one thing I would give up, I've already said this before, is the Niners. If you could give up that would be more time for us, more time for the kids and the wife and, whatever. Dogman.
Yeah.
Just give up the Niners.
Give up the Niners. You'd be fine.
Did I lose you again? My audio's messing up.
Your audio's messing up. Now you can't hear me.
I can't. Hello.
49ers.
I hear Brandy. Perfect timing, right? I think that's what BMR said earlier.
We'll make a Cowboys fan out of you, or maybe a Texans fan. If you don't want the Cowboys, how about the Texans?
Or Chiefs.
I'll go with Texans.
Chiefs.
No. Everybody's tired of the Chiefs. It was fun at the beginning, but not every day. It's like, no, we're good.
How do you think I feel? I'm a Niners fan. We've lost 2 Super Bowls to the Chiefs in the last 5 years.
You know why? Because you keep making you wear the white uniforms. I think that's what it is. Make y'all wear the red, you win. My opinion.
Well, just saying.
Yeah, that's true. Last time we did we got to switch it up.
Yeah, because every time y'all lost to the Ravens 10 years ago, whatever, and now twice or whatever, twice to the Chiefs. And I will say this. There was a snarky Cowboys fan on my Facebook that was like, yeah, they lost, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, shut up. We haven't even been, okay? So, look, it's been something years. Don't talk until you can get there. And don't say every time it's the refs. The refs do screw us a lot. But this last time with Green Bay, we deserved to get our ass kicked. I was so mad. I want to write a letter. Like it matters, like he's going to read it. But, dude, I'm not buying anything or wearing anything Cowboys until they get past the divisional round, and we'll talk. Other than that, Rangers, Astros, Texans, whatever. But Cowboys, no. Look right here. Look. You see this?
Nope.
You see that right there? Look. Cross the room. I deserve to do that. I'm a Cowboys fan for years. That's what they get. If you want to play better, play better. I don't. That Green Bay game. Toward the end of that game, I was rooting for them. I was like, kick their ass. That's what you get.
I agree.
They were like, they weren't trying. It was like, oh, well, it's whatever. Like you're getting paid. Shut up.
Yeah, very handsomely.
And then Jerry Jones is over there like, well, we're going to do some things. I'm going to stretch my face out some more. And, maybe we'll do something, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't do shit. He didn't do anything. Whatever, man. Done.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on tonight. I really do.
Yes, thank you.
Like I said, we'll definitely have to do this again.
Oh, yes. For sure. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, anytime you see me on and I'm doing the Friday, Saturday, whatever, any of y'all, just jump on,
Awesome.
Whatever.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I definitely will. I appreciate it.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it. And we will see everybody right back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. So tune in tomorrow
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.